The Flight of Staasi, in 25 Flutters, by Septimus Garadeb, author of several things. The Flight of Staasi, Part 1, in which we meet Staasi and the Moira.
So gather round, Freeds and Freebs. Everyone got a root to chew? Pile on the happy logs, bright the fire, and crimson its heart. Keep that doobie moving along and mellow down, while I brush the tale of Staasi over your placid psyches. Staasi was more than just this chick, you know. I mean, she was painted and pierced and had hipster specs, but that was only on the outside. The interior lady was a work of art. Only a few ever got to know that fabulous gallery. Staasi. She needed to get away. And what from, you ask? Staasi needed to get back to the land of Staasi. Other people had too much of Staasi. They had camped in and colonized and consumed so many Staasi places and spaces that there was almost no room for Staasi herself, just a shadow. And it was starting to slip away. So Staasi bought a motorcycle, and Staasi and the motorcycle went away for a while. Quite a long way. I'll scape her tail out for you, wide and spreading, but slow. Got to blend and mix in the shades. The doob comes around. Toke, bespoke, invoke. Okie doke. So Staasi got a motorcycle. At least Staasi thought she got a motorcycle. In fact, let me lay this on you easy and chill. A motorcycle got Staasi. So Staasi went to this store. To a store that sold motorcycles. Big store. All kinds of makes and models and madness. Wheeler dealer. 2 wheels are us. Bike and hike. Tokamada. Or some such. The place smelt of tyres and paint and polish, and a whiff of petrol, and liberty. Staasi wandered around the big, shiny floors. Ranks and rows of freedom makers. Blazing baby toy colours. Chrome to hurt the eyes and twist the gazing reflected face. Pastels and puces and purples, sullen, menacing black, charcoal, glossy, slick, pitch dark. Staasi looked hard at every model. It took a long time because she was seeking more than a big toy, more than a pastime or a pose, more than a ride to work. No machine seemed quite right. Is this me, she wondered, this huge, bullying Harley? So angry, so arrogant, swaggering, so in your face and up your nose, even cruel. Not me. This crackling little trail bike. Big knobby tyres, no lights, agile and athletic, but also kind of dumb and bratty. Not me. This retiree special, long and low, sleek and gadgety, purring and smooth, bland and boring, and heavy, gross, a burden, slung with panniers to carry all the trash people think they need. Not me. Dozens and dozens, all of them making some kind of unspoken promise. This, said Staasi to herself, is like speed dating. You glittering and polychrome beguilers, also glamorous and cool and alarming and intriguing, freighted with implication and inference, and I don't quite trust your jive. That is the way Staasi always talks, in the galleries of her mind. But there was another machine. Staasi found another machine. Staasi found it in a corner. It was hidden away behind rows of mean, racy two-strokes. All those leering fun boys leaning to one side like lazy, leering slouchers at a street corner. This machine stood upright, not actually hiding, more like it was waiting there. Not ashamed, but kind of aloof. Kind of a just before dawn blue colour, kind of an odd shape. Not arrogant or lazy, inviting like a favoured sofa. The doob comes around once more, puff the magic dragon, mine floats free like those pungent clouds of wacky-backy. This one, said Stacy to herself, this one. Is it me? Do we fit together?
We fit together, said the machine to Stacy. I'm us. Take us out of here. The Flight of Staasi, Part 2, in which the Moira abducts the Stacy. The story so far. Stacy, seeking freedom on 2 wheels, is musing in a motorcycle store. Of all these noisy, flashy, metallic steeds, which will suit her best? She rejects many for several reasons. She begins to think that none will do. And then in a far corner, there is a lone and lonesome machine. No one seems to want it. Now listen on, as the Tuntable Falls senior ent tells the tale around a campfire gathering of used hippies and fresh wokes.
Yeah, that spliff is stuck to someone's greedy lip. Keep it moving, keep it free, while I lay some more of the flight on you all. Okay then, I'll roll again. Doobie-doobie-doo. Throw another old hippie on the fire. We got old hippies here to burn. So, the Stace finds this bike, Kay. Like among dozens of 2-wheeled terrors, there's this one all by its lonesome self. Guy comes over to her, the sales dude in the man bun, like he's a samurai warrior and stuff. Yeah, right, as if. Babe, he says, this piece of wheeldom isn't for you, not your scene at all. The thing is a freaking rebel. Anyone who test rides it comes back minus skin. She throws them like a mule. How about you try a Vespa? Maybe a Lambretta, eh? Cute little girly wheels and girly pink with no gears to trouble your pretty head, know what I'm saying? And see, it's got like a hook for your purse and a modesty panel if you're wearing a skirt. How about this? Piaggio Fly here. Nice little 125cc engine, sweet little beep-beep horn. Only 245,000 kilometres on the clock and only ridden by a little old lady who putted up the pub on Sunday afternoons to play Keno and drink schooners of vodka cruiser. So Stacy is like copping all this cats and yammer from this creep, and he's trying to lure her away from the lonesome bike towards these mimsy little motor scooters. And Stacy accidentally steps backwards in her boots with the 6-inch heels and accidentally stabs him through the foot. Because he's purposely wearing, like, very cool Yeezy loafers, red ones, like his feet are on fire instead of workplace safety blunnies or Doc Martens, and as he howls and hops away, Stacy pats the saddle of the lonesome blue bike and says, I think we're going to be friends. And the bike says,
You betcha, honey.
Or maybe something more respectful, who knows, we weren't there. So Stacy looks around to see if Man Bun heard that, but he's still hopping and howling and holding his foot, and Stacy feels sorry for him because she has a kind heart and also thinks Man Bun's kind of cute. Also, he has a Simpsons tattoo, so she gives him a smile, one of her special limited edition I like you but this doesn't mean we're dating smiles, and gets out her trembling credit card. And the credit card whispers, we're never going to financially recover from this. And Stacy, like, waves her credit card at Man Bun and stuff and gives a special shut up and take my credit card smile. But he, like, waves it away and stuff. And he moans, get that frickin' murder cycle out of here. We call it the Big Bad Luck Bike. It's just a mess of bad vibes. Don't even know how it got in here. Go away, leave, and take it with you. Well, thank you, says Stacy, and puts away her Visa card, and the Visa card gives a happy sigh. And the Big Bad Luck Bike starts up all by itself. And Stacy climbs on in a ladylike way, and it feels good up there. It feels right. It feels like a part of Stacy, although until now, Stacy never had a 2-cylinder V-twin 8-valve 4-stroke engine as part of her anatomy. But then maybe she'd never looked. Maybe that 2-cylinder V-twin 8-valve 4-stroke engine explained all her drive and energy, and the fact that her oil needed changing now and then. She had also never noticed having LED turning lights and an automatic clutch, so wow, is that me? And Stacy says, I don't actually know how to ride a motorbike. And Big Bad Luck Bike says, you're not riding, you're travelling. And stop calling me Big Bad Luck Bike. I am the Moira. Your name is Moira? The Moira. The only one, and there'll never be another one like me, Moira. They rolled out of the shop towards the highway. Mr. Man-Bun was putting a Band-Aid on his foot. Stacy gave him a smile. One of her special limited edition, I think Man-Buns are cute, but you should have got Krusty the Clown smiles. They roar out onto the highway. The bike turns to the right and jams its way into the traffic. Pardon me, the Moira, says Stacy, who is always, polite, especially to motorcycles with a 2-cylinder V-twin 8-valve 4-stroke engine, but I live, like, in the other direction and stuff. Not today, replies the Moira, zooming past a Winnebago and around an Asian on an electric bicycle, delivering sushi. Not anymore.
The Flight of Staasi, Part 3, in which the Moira and the Stacy confer. The story so far. Stacy, seeking to purchase a recreational vehicle having 2 wheels and perhaps a 2-cylinder V-twin 8-valve 4-stroke engine, has been bike-napped by a willful machine calling itself the Moira. They are moving northwards on the highway at barely legal speed. Now rock on.
Everyone's still awake. Dudes all on full alert. The fire burns low, the charcoal glows like the eyes of forest demons, hungry and hunched in the night. So maybe this will be like the last step and we'll get back into the groove some other time. Or you want to binge listen, hey? Fine, let's roll. So Stacy is zooming, or like being zoomed, along the highway further and further from home and from work and from all the hassles and hang-ups and intravenous drips, but also further from her menagerie of 9 stray cats, 11 rescue dogs, there are 6 rabbits, several pygmy possums, or things that look like pygmy possums, an Asperger's ferret, a dugong in a plastic swimming pool, and an ant farm. Who will care for those? They'll take care of themselves, says the Moira. How do you know they'll take care of themselves? And how do you know what I'm thinking? Asks Stacy. Also, which part of you does the talking? You have a synthesized voice? I don't talk, says the Moira. I think. And they flash around inside a curve, taking the low G line and cut across for a neat chicane into the fast lane. Not supposed to do that, gasps Stacy. We'll get pulled over. Not me. You might, replies the Moira. As for my voice, it's inside your head. Ah, schizophrenia, hearing voices. I knew it would happen one day. I'm going crazy. You're not crazy. Don't you dream? Often. So the scenes and sounds and voices in your dreams, do they mean you're crazy? Everyone has those. So everyone is crazy? In which case, you're as sane as anyone. Your voice is in my head. Okay, you also know what I'm thinking. All right, and you can drive yourself. Fine. Now tell me what this is all about. For Stacy is no wimp, eh? No one, pushes her around and stuff, not even a thinking motorcycle with a 2-cylinder V-twin 8-valve 4-stroke engine and apparently no knowledge of the road rules. Wow, as if. She wants answers, explanations, justifications, also rationalizations.
Where are we going? Do I have any say in this? I was hoping for a quiet little two-wheeled toddle through the Royal National Park on a Sunday afternoon, maybe a vegan latte at that cool little cafe down at Audley, vegan roast quandong with vegan gravy with a side of maidenhair fern, and a special vegan Weight Watcher dessert of bark chips and sap. And now you're breaking laws and abandoning my family of attention-demanding pets. Some of those animals had bad childhoods, the dogs especially. They've all posted on #MeTooWoof. They're probably down at Centrelink now, sitting around in Lifeline tracksuits looking hopeless and waiting for a pension interview. Not the dugong. OK, not the dugong, but his water needs to be changed daily, maybe even hourly, and he wants his kelp. Can't get enough of that kelp. I have to dive for it every morning off Charon Point. And Kanjivoy, wow, he loves Kanjivoy, and I don't even know what Kanjivoy is. Ah, maybe. You're babbling. You'd be babbling too if you were abducted by a motorcycle that has a stuck-up manner and no compassion for an abandoned menagerie. Also, I would like some lunch. All that talk of quandongs has made my rummy tumble. You probably mean tummy rumble, but OK then.
So the Moira suddenly swings off the highway and through some gates and comes to a halt amid a pack of plastic meerkats and fountains with statues of ladies whose nipples like squirt water, and concrete gnomes and kangaroos and bird baths and stuff.
And Stacy says, "What is this?" And the Moira replies, "It's a nursery. The punnets of marigolds and petunias right over there. Eat your fill. Knock yourself out." And Stacy says, "You are so funny." Not.
But there are also punnets of tomato seedlings and capsicum and eggplant, plus Jerusalem artichokes and passion fruit vines, both banana and black, and lettuce and cabbage, also beans and peas. Probably other stuff like that if you looked around. I don't know, we weren't there. Carrots maybe, turnips.
"More to your liking, you little leaf muncher?" asks the Moira. "You know everything that's in my head, so yes, of course they are more to my liking, but these are just like seedlings," says the Stacy. "Then watch this," says the Moira. The Flight of Staasi, Part 4, in which the Stacy acquires a companion. What has happened?
Who's still awake? Only you, the pocket-sized babe with the boots and the purple hair and tie teeth? You want to know more? Yeah, sure, there's lots more. You're going to toot a few extra tokes on this big bad blunt? The Stacy saga could roll on until dawn. How about we throw some taters in the ashes to bake? Have 'em for brekkie, eh? You brought some taters with you to this hideaway, didn't you? No? How about yams? Kumara? Maybe ironbark pumpkin? No. Well, what did you bring? Raspberries. Huh. Okay, we can have raspberries with muesli. No muesli either? Fine, so we have them with sawdust. Or at least you can. Me, I'm grilling a blue tongue skink. Hey, it's okay. I'm 2% curry. And blue tongue is not my skin sign. I'm of the Flying Fox clan, and trust me, they taste, gross.
Now continue your perusal.
The scene is still a nursery, the Queens of Green Garden Centre, beside a highway somewhere. Stacy said she was hungry, due to a lot of dialogue about quandongs. By the way, did you maybe bring quandongs? Not them either. Huh. So suddenly the Moira, everything the Moira does is suddenly the Moira pulls into this nursery with plastic meerkats and shrubs and mulch. Maybe you'd like mulch for breakfast. Right, not mulch either. Also pebbles and bamboo screens and arches and Buddhas and concrete frogs and all like that. And Moira says Stacy should eat some plants for lunch, and Stacy points out that these here on display at the Queens of Green Totally Great Spring Garden Plant Now for those summer yummy wellness lunches are not fully grown vegetables. They are only infants. They are daycare legumes and cocoa bits and not ready for consumption. And the Moira says,
"Watch this."
So Stacy steps back and watches this, and this is what she wants. The tiny green fuzz and forest amid the trays of punnets begins to grow, faster than continents and more slow. Tender shoots stretch to stems which swell to stalks which burgeon and become laden with choice produce, bulging and bursting and hanging heavy on the overcharged limbs of what is now a considerable plantation or commercial orchard or even rampant jungle. From high in the canopy, Stacy can hear the screams of apes feeding and fighting. Fabulous birds in blazing tropic shades flap and squabble among the foliage as they balance on swinging limbs, gorging rare and forbidden and fragrant fruits. Stands of sugar-cane creak and rustle as peccaries grunt and grub among them, and a mamba coils and poises like some gorgeous viridian jewel wrapped around the dusky forearm of a long-departed Ethiopian princess, before darting to gobble a scarlet froglet.
Bit over the top, isn't it? Remarked Stacy. I mean, I just wanted lunch. But suddenly everything is suddenly with you. It's a tad, confronting. Suddenly we are amid what seems to be the central and uninhabited hinterland of a small South American republic. Probably terrorists or missionaries or a lost Inca city are hiding in there. Is this necessary? Also, there is the risk of malaria, beriberi, tropical ulcers, yaws, and poisoned darts blown by indignant indigenes. What are yaws, anyhow? Hurry and eat your fill. Put the rest in my panniers. We have to go, says the Moira. Panniers? Says Stacy, somewhat incoherently, since Stacy is now munching a tamarillo, while a marmoset perches on her shoulder, searching with slender and clever fingers through her hair for fleas, purple ones. You now have panniers? So I see, you didn't have panniers before we left on this crazy jaunt. Now suddenly, there it is again, you have panniers fixed to your subframe, also a top box. How's that done? I ask for an explanation, and all I get is panniers. And a top box. Load the panniers with fresh produce, replies the Moira. I hear the Queens of Green approaching. And they would be? Inquired Stacy. The big legume, the grand marrow, hot patootie, tall rhubarb, and chief chard. Big legume owns this joint, he and his buddy the twisted turnip run it. And if they catch us tampering with their gorgeous seedlings, they'll shovel us into a compost macerator, or at least that's what they'll do to you. Me, I'll squirt oil or something and they'll think I'm a water feature.
Heavy footfalls were coming nearer, scrunching over the finely spread pebbles of a Japanese serenity garden.
We see you there, you bitch! Where do you get off with this Galadriel act conjuring jungle out of Mr. Fothergill sure to grow Grossalisa and our special mix and match manure? Jesus Louise, is that a marmoset? Oh my God, I heard they carry rabies.
Yours, says Stacy. They also blow poisoned darts out of their nostrils and post really dank memes.
I told you, Jeremy,
fumed Big Legume.
I said no about 1,000,000 times to marmoset. We'll get a marmoset, you snivelled. Oh my God, they're so cute. Now we're going to die of rabies and dank memes.
And yours, probably, said Stacy. She packed the last mangosteens and jojoba nuts into a pannier and tucked the marmoset into her boot. Don't worry, I'm taking the beast with me, she said, and climbed in a ladylike manner onto the Moira.
What about all this exotic overripe produce of the Mato Grosso you've conjured, you awful thing?
Open a wildlife refuge, said Stacy. You'd be the biggest attractions in it. Mind the mamba, though.
And the Stacy and the Moira roll out through the upcycled cast-iron gates of the infuriated Queens of Green.
You can't trust women, always said so,
said Big Legume.
Or marmosets,
grumbled Twisted Turnip, wiping something off the sole of his sustainable, ethically sourced sandal. The Flight of Staasi, Part 5, in which the Stacy inquires again as to her destination. What has come and gone before? The one and only Stacy and the one and feisty metal Moira having suddenly called into a sudden garden centre for lunch, and having suddenly caused by some esoteric necromancy a fecund and fructose rainforest to erupt from a score of discount seedling punnets, have harvested some of the ripe and choice quality produce and departed, fairly hurriedly, or even suddenly, due to threats and glowering and angry head-tossings by a pair of mid-gender horticultural hand-shows, who have been aroused to a flouncing fury to the kind of hissy fit where they could just spit, that's all. And Stacy has acquired a marmoset. What has come before?
So you're hanging on to my every word, kid? Yeah, well, I kind of guessed my story was touching base when you climbed into my lap and started combing my hair and plaiting my beard and searching through my shoulder bag for, what, some hash? Oh, for something to eat. Breakfast, right. And you're asking how I know all this lore, this legend of the Stace and the Mozza, the entrancing tale that I'm laying on you throughout the long, easy night in the silent bush, by the dying, fragrant campfire when everyone else has sneaked away to their igloos, a little touch of tent-poling in the night. You ask, from whence cometh my deep Stacy learning and Moira lore? And how about all these split ends, and my dry scalp? You can recommend a good conditioner. Yeah, I know. Harley riding does that to your beard. My beard, anyway. Your beard, not so much. Wear it long like I do, and you can spend your life trimming and shaping it like a hedge. That's enough grooming. Take a leak. You know what I mean. It's like an onion, only tall. As for the source of my lore and learning and stuff, that will emerge as the folio unfurls. Go to it. The Moira slips out onto the highway, leaving a pair of horticultural hysterics dancing in choreographed, synchronized chorus girl rage and shaking their manicured fists while setting up a roadside stall to sell their sudden acquisitions of marketable salad greens and out-of-season dessert selections.
They rapidly contrive many misspelt handwritten signs in day-glow shades and set these out along the highway at high visibility points on both northbound and southbound lanes, and if the truth be known, along the median strip. Their enterprising is beyond measure, and their discounts and customer care are matchless.
Speaking of lanes, north and southbound, where are we headed? Asks Stacy politely. Or she thinks it politely, knowing that the Moira can read minds. Stacy's mind, anyway. Like, we started on the Prince's Highway. I think it was Rockdale. I don't recognise any of these surroundings, and I have driven the Prince's Highway many times. We are old friends, the Prince and I. Got my driver's licence on this highway. Was knocked down on Prince's Highway shopping mall car park by a little old lady in a Getz. I expected she'd give me the kiss of life. Instead, she gave me the finger of not a flick was given. I know, replied the Moira, because you can read my mind. Yes, I know all that, but I can't read yours. If you have one. A mind, I mean. I know you have twin cylinders and probably overhead valves, and for all I know, maybe a catalytic converter and a roulette wheel. But please, Miss Moira, where are we going? We are going, announced the Moira portentously, which is a pretty fancy word for a motorcycle. We are heading northwards along a magnetic trace detectable only to those of us who know of and can sense such things to consult the doer. And the Moira said it portentously. The Doer, said thought-mused Stacy. They're a band, right? Rappers? Or at least you are going to consult the Doer, continued the Moira, because you can read minds. Yes, I know. Because I already know what the Doer will say, rapped the Moira, and gave an angry lurch that almost flung Stacy to the asphalt. But luckily it didn't. Or there would be no more story, or yams for breakfast either. Raspberries, was it? Maidenhair fern, anyway. The lurch was not harsh enough to throw Stacy, nor cause her to lose any skin, but it brought the marmoset scrambling up from Stacy's boot and onto her shoulder, where it clung and faced bravely into the wind, its ears streaming like streaming ears in the wind. "You cling so tight," said Stacy. "I shall have to call you Araldite." And Araldite the marmoset, she, all the goodies in this pasquinade are female, remained thereafter. "You haven't answered my question about the doer." "Not to my satisfaction," complained Stacy through a mouthful of kumquat. She had raided a pannier to succour herself and Araldite, who looked hungry, or perhaps only perplexed and homesick, probably never having left her jungle before. Perhaps a kumquat would help? "All will be revealed in time," replied the Moira. "And I'll thank you to stop dribbling kumquat juice on my fuel tank. It stains my duco." "And a further other thing," added Stacy, selecting a lychee from the top box. "When will you need more fuel? I'm trying to read your gauge here, and it just shows enough." "Never. No fuel ever if you'll just stay silent," thought the Moira. "Silent? I shouldn't speak? Why?" "Why, because I go without saying." "Without saying what?" I haven't said anything really, but...
The Moira began to slow down. Stacy kept silent. The Moira spread up again. Onward into this inexplicable emprise they all three sped. The blueberries was prime.
The Flight of Staasi, Part 6, in which Stacy persists with her inquiry. What has come before? Now laden with more produce than Woolies, the fresh food people, or a restaurant dumpster, and having inherited a marmoset named Eraldite, through pet rescue or some such, Stacy and the Moira are streaking northward, or some direction very close to northward, following a rhumb line, or plumb line, or rule of thumb line, or a subductive geocline, altogether an irresistible attractive force, possibly electromagnetic, perhaps geotropic, more powerful and propulsive than 5G or a high colonic or the One Ring. Now read on. The fire has sunk low, a dawn as ruddy as a rusty roof, as pink as a maiden's maiden, in shades of effulgent saffron, like a takeaway madras butter chicken with cardamoms, naan bread, and 3 choices of raita, is nascent and nudging itself against a cyclorama of bunched shock-white clouds, clenched like fists. And as if that isn't enough, birds are making a fearful racket, as birds do in the morning, ghastly things, and still the saga of Stacy continues. Where will it all end, if ever? The senior ent of the really sincere and earth-praising holistic wholeness and all-night doobies retreat, wedding reception and conference centre has schlepped off to snore in his braided beard and 2-tone combi camper van, leaving his devoted listener to muse and pensively tweak the silver studs rimming her pinner. Still, I'm sort of wondering what this is all about, sighs the Stacy. Their road seems to roll on forever, though Stacy's patience is coming to an end. They have now left the highway and the city and are gliding like an arrow launched low and swift from some strong-bent bow, around lush, lumpy hills and down greening sleek vales, through villages and hamlets and townlets, all unpeopled, silent, where no person moves in the narrow streets, nor waves from flower-bright garden or homely oak-settled veranda. They swoop and swerve through empty expanses of bare-boned trees and knuckled, tumbled rock and dry grasses, where not even the despairing voice of the crow is heard, dying with the dying fall. What is this all about? You still haven't explained the dua. Is it a religion? Do I have to don a head covering and paint paisley designs on my arms with henna? Is it going to be a rally with banners and bloodshed and a crafts exhibition? Is it like a ute muster? Should I wear a red Stetson and write myself off for the leader of Bundy? And what are yours? You still haven't told me about yours, and I might even have yours and not know it. I might be a yaw carrier. Can you catch a yaw from a marmoset? This accusation, the implication that she might be a yaw victor, and therefore personally undesirable and a bad credit risk, and likely to be blocked on social media, causes Eraldite to howl. And for those amongst you who have never heard a marmoset howl, you are no use at all as a source of informed information about the sound of a marmoset when it howls, so you can just kind of take a back seat and consider yourself corked up. Step forward, those of you who are acquainted with the howling of marmosets. All right? Not too many of you, and you might have heard some other anthropoid instead, like a macaque or a gibbon, possibly a colobus. This is not good enough. Marmosets only. The howl of a marmoset is like no other sound in the universe. It is unique and insupportable. It causes brain hemorrhage, internet outage, divisions in the Houses of Parliament. It tears huge gaps in not only the ozone layer, but the ionosphere, the troposphere, and the heaviside layer, so all radio communication is blanked out, and people cannot shout abuse at each other over CB radio. A marmoset howl shivers timbers, stabs victuals, raises lumps in gravy, and provokes meteorite showers. And therefore, a marmoset howl is a thing to be avoided. Which is why Stacy hurriedly patted and caressed the marmoset and apologised and slipped it inside her jacket, where it cuddled up close. I never meant that about yours. I'm sure you never had a single yaw in your whole entire life, she added soothingly, and you wouldn't know a yaw if you met one, and neither would I, and if I did meet a yaw, I'd just ignore it, just walk past with my nose in the air. And the marmoset made a small, contented noise and snuggled closer. You've become quite close to that Calithrix jacus, observed the Moira, as they flew under an overpass and over an underpass. Quite a warm friendship, it seems. You don't know how warm, says Stacy. It's just peed on me like gallons. Onwards they damply rushed. Night began moistly to fall. The Flight of Staasi, Part 7, in which Stacy meets another, what has been before. Abducted by a rogue velocipede, which is apparently powered by thought alone, Stacy, a mild-mannered menagerie manager and celebrity baton twirler, is approaching that time of the day when she normally curls up on a sofa amid or between or beneath a dozen fur babies and ingests tofu and ferns while chilling to Netflix or watching with interest as the local fire brigade battles to extinguish a neighbouring house, which is excitingly ablaze. But this eve is different. Instead of a dozen fawning beasts crowding around and shoving for a place in her lap, Stacy has an incontinent marmoset stuffed up her jumper, and the sun is sinking, and very pretty it looks in different garbs, derived of rocket rouge glare and war-paint ochre and Titian rose madder and ebullient boiling lava in scarlet threads and golden runnels rippling out to twilight. But none of this answers the questions uppermost in Stacy's mind, which are as follows. 1. Where are we going? And 2. Where am I sleeping tonight? And 3. What's for dinner, because we are down to our last persimmon? And 4. Where can I get some dry clothes? Also, who is feeding my menagerie and reading them bedtime stories? Now read on. The Moira does not answer. The Moira purrs onward, and as the day goes and the glooms come on, throws a blinding white double headlight beam into the dusk. In stark outline, the trunks and limbs of a crowding forest reach out to grasp with crooked claws, and then shrink away. And still they roll on, and now they are climbing, and the air grows chillier, mountain air, thin and scanted scents, and the road winds up, and suddenly, yes, suddenly, they are bumping and lurching down a rough track through bushland, past boulders big and brooding, and arrive at a clearing, a star-strewn sky above. The Moira comes to a halt and falls silent. Stacy dismounts. The night is still and soundless. Not far off she sees a light, and she moves towards it. Her boots crunch and slither on the grass. A weed grabs a 6-inch heel, and she nearly stumbles, but the light draws her. It is a warm and greeting light, a light where comfort and company might be found. Also yams. The light is a campfire burning low. Seated beside it is a girl with purple hair, boots and perfect teeth, which she reveals in a welcoming smile. Hello. Hello. I've been expecting you for ages. I've been travelling all day. Yes, I guess you have. Are you hungry? Yes, I sure am. Have a yam. Thank you. You're very kind. The girl rakes some yams out of the ashes. And here are some raspberries you can have for afters. Oh, wow, that is so cool. Thank you so much. Tell you what. Stacy unzips her jacket. Here, have a marmoset. The moon peeks up and reveals a mountain range, cold and sober and naked. A night bird gives a keening cry, and from a two-tone combi camper nearby comes a long, rattling snore. The Flight of Staasi, Part 8, in which Stacy retires for the night. What has gone before? After a long, incident-filled but withal puzzling journey, or hegira, or escapade, which had its diverting moments but raised more questions than it answered, Stacy, who was apparently born without a surname or even a change of clothes, has arrived by some inexplicable contrivance at a remote montane fastness, and in the early evening, where, by the glow of a dying campfire of eucalypt boughs and decayed hippies, she is offered a banquet of roast yam and raspberry surprise. The surprise being that there are no raspberries because Araldite, the marmoset, has eaten them all. Now read on. This enthralling saga once had a narrator, but the narrator has retired to his two-tone combi camper van where he is snoring explosively through his beard, a fierce and abundant ash-grey growth, the kind of facial barricade behind which inadequate men conceal themselves. It is a barbarous, crumb-harbouring hedge, vast as a tartan picnic rug, which has been plaited into braids by a tiny hash-hazed devotee, so that the erstwhile narrator now resembles a Viking, or the impoverished proprietor of a retreat for old busted-down alternative lifestylers who have no alternative and no lifestyle either. Stacy, after removing her full-faced showy helmet and elbow-length gauntlets, has dined famously on roast yam, and is so replete with yamness that she has politely refused any raspberry surprise, which is just as well, because there are no raspberries, not even a quandong, quince or quinyepa, and who knows what a quinyepa is or if it bites when disturbed after dark. No, Araldite has scoffed all available raspberries and has scuttled and scuffled away to roost in the topmost notches of a mountain ash, Eucalyptus regnans, where she gives a contented sigh and a small burp and descends into a deep and happy slumber. "And I wish I could do the same," yawned Stacy. "I don't know where I am or what this is all about, but I'm tired and I really need to sleep somewhere, and I don't even know who you are." "Really?" smiles the lass with the purple hair and several discreet tattoos. "Really? Well, you look kind of familiar, but I'm too tired to work it out. Have we met?" "Yes. Well, almost. Not quite. That's why we're here. We'll talk about it in the morning. I'll show you to your bed." "Cool," yawned Stacy. "Thank you so much." They moved off into the soft and soothing darkness. Under the spreading branches of an old and avuncular Moreton Bay fig, Ficus macrophylla, there was parked a camper van, Volkswageners Hippie, in shades of mauve and charcoal. The door slid open by itself. Inside, by the feeble overhead methane-powered light, Stacy saw a compact kitchen, chemical lavatory, shower, media centre, hydroponic garden, astrological observatory, pottery kiln, loom, ginger beer plant, and a single inviting bunk. "Lie down and relax," said the lilac-tressed lass at her elbow. "And where do you sleep?" asked Stacy, as polite as ever. "Here, with you." Yeah, that's going to be a no from me," said Stacy, and she was as polite as pie. Hunter pie made from spinach and other good things. Like, I may have purple hair and stuff, but you still don't get it? Get what? Get who I am? "Oh, yawned Stacy, no, I don't get it." And I'm like, "Really, Rick? And maybe I'll just climb up and find a notch or a crotch near Araldite. I need to sleep, really, really sleep." "Then sleep, girl." And Stacy rolled into the bunk and her eyes began to close, and the girl took her hand and said, "Now do you know?" And Stacy said, "I think I know." And the girl said, "Of course you know. You've always known." And the girl faded away, or maybe Stacy drifted into sleep, and as she sank sweetly to the soft embrace of slumber, she knew that the girl was Stacy, and Stacy was the girl, and the soothing night came down and swaddled them both. And from the two-tone camper, by the brooding boulders and the now abeyant embers, and the last dried-up yams, came thunderous apnoic exhalations. The Flight of Staasi, Part 9, in which Stacy sets out upon a quest. What has gone before? Stacy has arrived at a misty, lofty mountain glen through some haphazard narrative legerdemain, which ignores all the demands of common sense, plot construction, Aristotelian unities of dramatic action, and freeway tolls. Stacy has met a mysterious girl who seems vaguely familiar, or just vague. The girl has served Stacy with a delicious yam-baked dinner, provided Stacy with a cosy place to sleep in a kind of wonder Winnebago, with a deck and spa bath and possibly a billiard table, but the girl has offered no explanations. Weary and a little wary, but mostly weary, Stacy has slipped into a bunk for one and fallen into a deep and peaceful sleep for one, although her phone still has no service. Now read on. There was that sound again. And again. It sounded like the patter of little feet. The patter of little feet that ran back and forward and then stopped and ran again. It sounded like the patter of little feet on the steel roof of a recreational vehicle produced by a small arboreal mammal with large white hairy ears searching for someone or something, probably for sustenance. That, said Stacy to herself, is probably Marmite the Marmoset, looking for me and something to eat. Not Marmite the Marmoset, I mean Martin the Malamute. No, not him either. Merlin the Macaque, Malcolm the Mink, Murray the Mongoose. Oh, dang nabbit, I suppose I'd better wake up and get it right. Stacy opened her eyes and yawned. Then she yawned once more and closed her eyes. The patter of little feet on RV rooftop began again. She widened her eyes and found herself staring at a marmoset, upside down, gazing at her from above through a window for one. White whiskers instead of ears, eloquent amber eyes, and an unnecessarily long, fluffy tail. And not house-trained either, recalled Stacy, and she sat up and looked around. And right next to her bunk for one was a shower for one. And when she got out of her bunk for one and went investigating, she found a toilet for one, and also a closet containing clothing for one, and all the clothing was her own, only nicer, with designer labels and her name tag sewn in. And the sliding door of the Wonder Winnebago slid open by itself, and Araldite the Marmoset scuttled in and climbed up onto the fridge for one, and jumped up and down and fidgeted and tried to prise open the fridge door. Through some narrative legerdemain, the rascal seemed to know what was inside it, even though Stacy didn't, and Stacy opened the door of the fridge for one, and it was crammed with every kind of delectable and sustainable dining experience that a marmoset could enjoy, or a vegan. Stacy assembled a fruit and vegetable banquet and spread it lavishly on the table for one. Araldite leaped down, grabbed a mango as big as her head, and scrambled up into the dome of the astronomical observatory, there to gorge upon this fat and mellow dainty in the messy and uninhibited manner of her species, which has no manners at all. And seeing Araldite so busily occupied, Stacy enjoys, with much comfort and convenience, and many suds, the ablutionary facilities of the Wonder Winnebago, and she emerges refreshed and invigorated, and also redolent of a new fragrance she has found in a vanity for one. Stacy selects from her wardrobe for one an outfit suitable for a quest for one. Her ensemble is stylish but practical, with many clever pockets, cunningly contrived, and accessorized so as to flatter the figure without showboating. Tailored by master tailors from a subtle forest-friendly fabric in an appealing shade that will nonetheless not show any traces of marmoset. Available now at all good quests. Hurry only while stocks last. And having sat down to a veritable cornucopia for one, and broken her fast famously, Stacy is ready for anything, including a quest. She would like to ask the girl how she ought to continue the quest, never having been on a quest before, unless it involved parachuting out of a helicopter, but the girl seems to have disappeared. "I'm still around," said the girl from somewhere close. "Where are you?" asked Stacy, looking about and munching a melon. "Here, with you, of you, for you." "Like the Moira?" "Not quite. I don't have a twin-cylinder four-stroke air-cooled engine." "I guess not. So what do you have instead?" "I have a quest." "Is it cunningly contrived and accessorized?" "It is." "Then let's go." "Shall I bring the marmoset?" "She is forest-friendly." "Bring the marmoset. She may come in useful." "Where are we going?" "Up the mountain." "Excellent. I chose mountain boots. They are stylish but practical. They were crafted by master bootmakers and have zips that tinkle as one walks." "Then let us step forth, ever tinkling, and quest ourselves." Araldite leaped from atop the Fisher and Paykel freezer to the Sunbeam air fryer, from the Sunbeam air fryer to the Black & Decker juicer, from the Black & Decker juicer to the Boeing espresso machine, and from the Boeing espresso machine to the Toyota tumble dryer, and then, worn out by her post-prandial workout, jumped onto Stacy's shoulder, curled up, and went to sleep. "Now," "Let the quest commence," declared the girl, and Stacy strode out into the welcoming day and stopped short, tinkling a little. The Moira was gone. The Flight of Staasi, Part 10, in which Stacy is startled and ascends some stairs. What has gone before? Stacy, a well-meaning lass of small stature but large and expanding influence, has been inserted, not altogether against her will, into an adventure or exploit. The events attendant upon this picaresque scenario have carried her far from her home and her host of dependents, none of whom has written to her lately. Awakening after a long and much-needed slumber, Stacy has washed, dressed herself in major label activewear, breakfasted, fed her companion animal, chatted with her alter ego, washed up the crocs, loaded her undies into the tumble dryer, painted her toenails mauve, played a few rounds of pool in the billiard room, and is now ready to face whatever challenges the day offers. Her alter ego, the girl, aka the inner Stacy, has proposed that they ascend the adjacent mountain, though inner Stacy does not say why. Perhaps there is a nice view up there. Perhaps they are to gather elven, esoteric, magical herbs, weave them into their hair, and stand under a chilly cascade chanting feminist anthems and celebrating women's spirituality. Perhaps they shall visit a sage in a cave, the Dewar, remember the Dewar, and consult her about deep meanings and life and superannuation and stuff. How is it that a motorbike can talk? That kind of thing. Who knows? We weren't there. Another thing that wasn't there when Stacy stepped through the sliding door of the wannabe go, a door which seems to open and close on its own, another puzzling matter to tackle with a sage in a cave, was the Moira. Now read on.
The Moira was gone. Yes, not even a patch of oil or a drop of kumquat juice was left to show where once she so proudly stood on her side stand. Yes, it's true, her side stand, because Stacy couldn't manage to swing her up onto her centre stand, not in boots with 6-inch heels. Remember the boots with 6-inch heels? Well, Stacy has ditched them now, and Araldite ate them after she'd finished her mango.
So the Moira has gone. Where? Why? Who? What? And any other words of puzzled inquiry beginning with the letter W, notwithstanding wherefore and whom and whereas. Also WTF and wow. "The Moira has left us," wept Stacy sadly, and wiped away a tear with a sigh, and a Kleenex dyed in warm autumnal shades impregnated with aloe vera and skin-nourishing vitamin E, "and we were getting along so well. Why for has she gone? Was it something I said, or didn't say? Should I have parked the Moira under a roughly contrived shelter of branches and woven bark, with side curtains of plaited pampas grass repelling the prevailing wind, and a damp course? Should I have invited the Moira to breakfast? But how? And with only one chair, and no summer-weight crankcase oil in the Fisher and Paykel? It is a puzzlement." Another sigh and another tissue, "and I regret it exceedingly." "The Moira has not left us," murmured inner Stacy, who'd been silent all this while, waiting for outer Stacy to finish her soliloquy and pick up all the soggy tissues she has strewn about the misty glen. "The Moira was taken." "Taken?" cried Stacy. "Taken? But where? Why? Who? Whereas?" "Let's not have all that W trouble you again," said inner Stacy, who sounded a little peeved. "That designer wear has made you a tad ditzy. Maybe you should go back to the Wannabigo and change. Bib and brace overalls and Doc Martens." "I'll be good," said Stacy quickly. "But I still want to know, have you noticed anything else missing?" Stacy looked around for a while. "Yes," she said at last. "There's no smoke coming from the campfire." "Oh, you'd better lose that Prada Aspen jacket. It's dropped your IQ 30 points. Okay, I see now. The two-tone combi camper with the peace sign and green left stickers on every bumper and window. It has gone. Yep, Misty Glen has done a runner. Surprised he could wake up early enough. He hooked on the Moira and towed her away. Well, that's just crazy. I mean, why? Just why? That's enough W words. Did you notice anything about Misty Glen that was unusual?" "Hard to notice anything at all. Was that his real name? Misty Glen? Most of him was hidden behind that beard anyway. Huge, massive beard. He looked like a blues tragic. or a very old garden trellis. Probably his beard has its own Twitter account. He walked with a limp. A limp what? Oh, I see. Did he? Yep. Something hurt his foot. Or someone. His foot. What? Oh, you mean Man Bun? I thought I'd left him far behind in another chapter. A closed book, a done deal. One of those things, sorry, but there it is. We must move on. Parting is such sweet sorrow and stuff. He followed you. And he has taken the Moira. Just one word. Where? We must find out. To the Astrodome. To the Astrodome. To the what now? The Astrodome. A feature of your accommodation you have so far neglected to inspect, due to where you have spent too much time burrowing into your wardrobe, giving girlish squeals, and throwing belts and beads and brooches and scarves around, and staring at yourself in the mirror, posing this way and that way, and taking selfies. I never, panted Stacy, because she was running now. I never posed in front of a mirror in beads. You made that up. Anyhow, it was a shrug. Black chiffon. Really cool. Anyway, my phone still has no service. They reached the Wannabigo. The door, once again, without being asked, flung itself aside, and they hurried up to the Astrodome. This Aspidrome, what does it do? It helps us to see. That's with a capital S. I see, or rather no, I don't see. Gosh golly, and jumping Jehoshaphat, what a lot of stairs. Couldn't we have taken the elevator? They at last reached a lofty platform set at a dizzying height about the surrounding countryside. The view was breathtaking, the hills were undulating, the locale was prestige and dress circle, and promised a leveraged return on any investment property with negative gearing and a 2-year moratorium on easy low-interest repayments. On a pedestal, in a binnacle, with gimbals of rubidium and trunnions of manganese steel, stood a shiny brass telescope of the kind used by old-time sea captains. Beside it stood a shiny brass old-time sea captain.
"Ahoy, mateys,"
said he in a shiny brass voice.
"Drop a coin in the slot, and you get to see the lot."
Stacy searched her cleverly contrived pockets and found no cash, but only a tiny booklet with a cleverly contrived message from Prada saying how smart she was to buy one of their aspen jackets, and how smart she looked in it probably. Wash separately. Delicate cycle. Do you take Visa? Stacy timidly asked the shiny brass sea captain, who gave a shiny brass laugh, winked a shiny brass eye, and gave a great shiny brass spit over the side.
Not in your scuppers, me saucy vedette. I be taking only shrapnel with our dear Lady Sovereign's head a-banged on 'em,
he cackled, and danced a hornpipe, or perhaps had a petit mal fit. And how can I see through the astro thing and find the Moira?
That be the question, lassie. What you wants is the golden doubloon.
Sure now, I've been to Doubloon, said Stacy. Everyone there says grand all the time. They drink Guinness like water, be Jesus. And one of them took me to a fairy brook, and didn't he make me stick me head under the running water and make a wish? Egypt, feckin' cold it was.
You fell for the old head in the burn myth. God bless you, young mistress. Now you just cut along and find yourself a golden doubloon, and then you can gaze all you like through me fine and shiny brass spyglass.
And the shiny brass captain expectorated over the side again. From far below came the howl of a marmoset which has been spat on from a great height. Many scholarly treatises have been written about the howl of a marmoset, but none approaches the horrid howling truth, especially when it comes to describing a spat-upon marmoset howl. I'd better go and give her a mangosteen, or maybe a paw-paw, said Stacy, and set off down the stairs. The elevator was not out of order, but it could only be activated by a golden doubloon.
And don't forget my golden doubloon, missy,
called the shiny brass sea captain, and for a wonder he did not spit over the side, or dance a hornpipe, or thrust a ship into a rum bottle, or inscribe a dugong tusk with a whaling scene. No, he fell silent. Only the tinkle of a golden doubloon could rouse him from his torpor. And meanwhile the Moira was being rapidly towed further and further away. The Flight of Staasi, Part 11, in which the quest continues with some bickering. What has come before? Expecting to climb the Mount of Truth and make extensive inquiries of the Dewar, also known as the Sage in the Cave, the Hag and the Crag, the Freak at the Peak and the Frump and the Hump, and other epithets more or less disrespectful of her age and lore and wisdom and echolalic affliction, Stacy, both inner and outer identities, have discovered to their shock horror, full story page 3, that the Moira has been abducted, or even abducted, by a vengeful salesman with a wounded instep, who has all this time been masquerading as a wool-hatted, cone-toking, sandal-wearing, over-bearded guru of tree-huggers and loam and mould botherers, a counterculture wastrel who sits by a dying bonfire of vanities and weaves sagas from long-forgotten protest songs and the classified ads in Grassroots. That sort of rainforest roaming loafer. But nay, 'tis not so. Misty Glen, or Man Bun, or Todd de Talk, or whatever he calls himself for the nonce, has all this time been nursing a dastardly plan which cannot fail. But wait, there's more. In attempting to use the astrodome, which is a device for seeing, a snag has been struck, a fly has been lodged in the ointment, a nicker has been detected in the woodpile, a rift has riven the loot. In fact, a whole swag of tropes has accumulated to stay Stacy's progress. In order to activate the brass spyglass of seeing and prevent the sea captain of brass from expectorating on her marmoset, Stacy must find a golden doubloon, or maybe even the golden doubloon. There may be only one of such in the whole entire world and universe and everything. Now, read on. It would appear that we have fallen foul of a villain with a dastardly plan that cannot fail, frowned outer Stacy as she descended the stairs, the tiny zircon-encrusted zippers on her mountain boots tinkling like inklings. Or a tintinnabulation of Ferris fingerlings. And not only that, added Inner Stacy, we have now a subquest, or it may be a supplementary venture to pursue, viz., the location and capture and domestication of a golden doubloon, which one of us, ho, claimed was a fair city in air, where much Guinness is consumed. Ha, no names follow my eyes. Do you wear glasses? Asked Outer Stacy. Sometimes you talk like a person who wears glasses, those little narrow ones that make a person's eyes look small and mean. Would you say you were a person with small, mean eyes? Sometimes you sound like you have small, mean eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, and anyway, I can barely hear you over the tinkling of your boots. Why do your boots tinkle? Do you deliberately choose annoying boots? Sometimes you sound like a person who wears annoying boots. Would you describe yourself as a person who wears annoying boots and one who shoves her phone down inside one of them? There's still time to change into Doc Martens or those orthopaedic shoes old ladies used to wear until they discovered Reebok pumps. I would describe myself as very patient and polite with all persons, even if they are my inner self, who criticise my boots, my tinkles, and my chosen method of carrying my phone, which is still without service. I was hoping that when we toiled up to consult the dill on the hill, that I might get a few bars. And none of this is helping us with our pursuit of the gobbling Dublin, or the case of the missing Moira. I detect, behind the jingling of your fasteners, that you speak truth. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty, and so bear ourselves that, if our quests, principal and secondary, last 1,000 years, marmosets will say, this was their finest whore. Whore? Whore. The red fruit of the hawthorn. Marmosets thrive on it when they can't get raspberries. Where is Aldite, anyway? She hid herself behind the mass-bought mulcher because your bling-bling boots frightened her, which is why she was expectorated upon. From a great height? From a very great height, and therefore had to be fed grated cassava from a Staffordshire chinoiserie platter with a chaste silver ladle. It was the only way to pacify her. And now she's asleep in my other boot, from which I note you have thoughtfully removed the tinklers. La, and it so pleased you, miss, they come off by their very own selves, they did. May I swing for it? They came to the edge of the glen, or clearing, or swathe, or broad sunlit uplands, if you will, and found themselves standing with wild surmise at the edge of a sweeping valley that stretched sweepingly away in every dimension except upwards. There is a path here, narrow, and not much frequented, said Outer Stacy, examining it with the theodolite. Then I suggest we follow it, said Inner Stacy. Reason, there is a finger-post here, and upon it is painted a rebus in a shaky hand, which, when decoded by devices arcane and cabalistic, I can vouchsafe, saith, to the golden doubloon. Yea, verily. This is not the doubloon with the Guinness and the fairy stories about dunking heads in the wishing burn. Nenny, it is our way towards the prosecution of our secondary quest. I wonder who is grooming my dugong, sighed Stacy. His whiskers must be all of a doodah, and his maxillary mandibles a mess. Do not despair! Onward! And the entire Stacy contingent, boots and all, gathered itself and strode down into the valley of descent. The Flight of Staasi, Part 12, in which the Stacy encounter a wild gerund. What has come previously? During a captious colloquy between herselves, stakeholders inner and outer Stacy have explored such diverse areas of mutual interest as footwear, eyewear, but not underwear, which is still in the tumble dryer. They have touched upon the vicissitudes of escapades, the susceptibility of marmosets to emotional storms, and the advisability of following finger posts inscribed with arcane glyphs, which point to distant destinations, and which may, or may not, lead to the recovery of doubled gadroons, or gullible poltroons, or doubtful gubbins, whatever it is that they find down the valley of descent, which is where we find them now, descending. Now read on. The valley was wide and verdant. In the distance, herds of grading beasts could be discerned, nibbling the bark of stunted highland trees. Perhaps they were gerenooks, and perhaps they were gazelles, and perhaps they were gnus, or even gerons. But whatever, they turned and fled when they heard the jingle-jangle of Stacy's boots. Their stampede raised such a dust that the Stacys were completely blinded for some time. They wandered lonely as a cloud through the pasture and the verdure and the ordure for ever such a long time. "We've been wandering through this dust cloud for ever such a long time," complained Stacy to Stacy. "We have strayed so far from the beaten track that I cannot locate it, even with my theodolite on maximum thrust, and I need to wash my hair due to the geron dust, and my sinuses are playing up due to the pulverized geronook droppings raised by the stampede, and my phone still has no service, and everything is just awful." "Yes," said inner Stacy, "I know." "Yes," said outer Stacy, "I know you know. And I know that you know that I know. And I know that you know that I know that you know that I know. And girls! Girls! Cried a voice. It was a slightly cross voice, like the headmistress of a stuffy girls' school, who's heard giggling during prayers, and neither Stacy could tell from whence it came.
"Stop that silly hair-splitting and snitty-spatting. Cease at once."
"Do you know who that is?" asked outer Stacy. "No. Do you?" replied inner Stacy. "No. But you know that I don't know. And I know that you know that I don't know. And
"Girls! That's quite enough."
The voice seemed to come from a great distance, and yet it was close and oddly comforting, like a favourite auntie, not the one who drinks and asks when you're going to get married, the other one, the one who has time to listen to your problems and gives you money and lipstick when your mum says no, but she also kicks your bum if you need it, that kind of auntie. The dust and dung and dross had drifted away. The air was clear, and ahead and above were visible the lofty heights of Mount Lofty Heights. Her voice is coming from the top of Mount Lofty Heights, the freak on the peak, the hag on the crag.
"I heard that,"
said the voice.
"Get yourselves up here at once."
"We're in big trouble," said outer Stacy. "You're the one in trouble. She probably doesn't know that I exist," said inner Stacy. "She probably does know." "Yes, she probably does know, but maybe she doesn't." "Yes, she does. How do you know?" "Sages know all kinds of stuff. They are smart persons. And live in caves? That's smart? This is obviously some new kind of smartness with which I have previously been unacquainted."
"I heard that too."
By now they had found another narrow and scarce-used path that wound up through the scree and the tuff and sliding shards that had been shed over millennia by the scruffy and unkempt Mount Lofty Heights. Geronooks and gerons watched them nervously, nostrils twitching as they inhaled Stacy's designer fragrance. Their ears twisted this away and that away. The jingling of her mountain boots alerted and alarmed them. The Stacys rounded a looming outlier and halted. To one side there was a precipice, a sheer cliff. Far below they could see a peacefully grazing flock of gerbils, or perhaps they were gastropods. They were peaceful in any case, and they were also a long, long way down, and the Stacys felt no urge to join them. But there on the track ahead of them stood a gigantic buck gerund. His enormous curled horns ended in cruel impaling points, which he had sharpened by scraping on outcrops of gneiss and orthoclase, until they were proud and also bitter and entirely lethal. His hoofs were huge and sharp-edged, his red-rimmed eyes were mad with bark-lust, and his tiny tail was shaking with rage. The gerund lowered his gross and ugly head. He pawed the earth, throwing aside great clods and divots of montane grit and gravel. He blew strings and gouts of snot through his snout. He gave a great bronchitic bellow. "He clearly does not mean us well," said Outer Stacy. "What do you mean us? He probably doesn't know about me," said Inner Stacy. "If I go, you go with me." "That is unfortunately true. So what do? Hurry, think hard. His eyes are getting redder." "Do you think he'll take Visa? Has that worked before?" "No." "Then I guess we are in deep doo-doo. He will either gore us to death with those cruel impaling points sharpened on outcrops of gneiss, or else he will trample us with his great brutal hoofs. And if we try to run away, he will charge and butt us brutally over the cliff edge, and we will plummet and land amongst the gadflies below, or whatever they are." And there the Stacys stood, paralysed with indecision and trepidation and a justifiable doubt about the future success of their quests, major and minor both. The buck gerund gave another huge bellow. The Flight of Staasi. Part 13, in which the Stacyi face certain death. What has gone before? We are presently with the Stacys, in a state of stasis. The Stacys are not a girl band, nor a Dublin comedy team, nor cartoon suburbanites. Join the wacky Stacy bunch for good, clean, family-friendly fun. 7 p.m. each school night right here on the Norcia channel. Or a garment of some kind.
I can't fit in these damn Stacys anymore. You want to try them?
Nor a specialised automobile wrench.
Toss us them 30mm Stacys, mate. This nut won't budge.
Nor a surgical instrument.
Pass me the 30mm Stacy, sister. This infant is stuck halfway.
Nor a pair of weathered igneous volcanic cores rising bustily from the great devising range and named the Stacys by an early explorer who fancied that they resembled some portions of his wife, or a lady of equal distinction, whom he missed rather. Nor is the Stacys a fashionable restaurant for au courant city people.
We had dinner at the Stacys and there was absolutely no one there, just a plethora of inbred nobodies and hens' nights. The place might have been sizzlers.
No, the Stacys are a one-woman operation with a board of directors comprising a single corporate entity of occasionally divided mind but ultimately combined operations. At present, the Stacy Group has convened and is conferring with respect to a high-level managerial crisis which may result in the exit of their entity from all further trading and tax benefits. An agenda has been agreed on. A motion has been placed on the table for debate. No one, however, is taking any minutes. In short, we have arrived at a cliffhanger, and what a doozy it is. The Stacys, jointly and severally, intending to ascend the Mount of Truth, which has somehow become Mount Lofty Heights and may even change its name again. One never knows with mountains, especially if the local land council gets snotty and insists on its indigenous calling, which could be one Dagabula Agulabulagong Abarapenti Bunji.
That miserable eminence we toiled up one blazing summer day, only to learn that the mob we expected to meet there had buggered off and there wasn't even a blue tongue to eat.
Or worse. There, on a narrow mountain path formed by the pads and paws of generation of Gerenooks and Griffins and Gadzooks, the Stacyi have encountered a furious buck gerund of distended nostril, of bloodshot eye, of brutal hoof, and of drooping pizzle, who, other things being equal, wishes to engage them in non-verbal discourse, which may result in the Stacyi being thrown to their death over the precipice just adjacent to their offside boot, or else crushed beneath the buck gerund's enormous hoofs like the inexorable juggernaut of Hindu myth. Neither prospect pleases. Now read on. "Have you thought of anything?" said Stacy to Stacy. "Yes," said Stacy to Stacy. I have thought of my home. I think I left the iron on. I was pressing this blouse, and I got a text. Anything to save us from imminent doom, I mean. Forget your blouse. It was a lovely blouse. It had kittens on it. Confound the kittens. Doom confronts us. It is a tragedy in the making. So is a house burning down, and a scorched blouse, and the text wasn't even important. It was just some woman from Ethiopia dying of yours who wanted to leave me 100,000 million birr, and all I had to do was give her my visa number and promise that I would always love the Lord. I ask you, where would I put them? All those birr. I don't even know what birr are. Do they bite after dark? Are they vegan friendly? Do they take visa? We are about to die by violence, without witnesses to capture the event on smartphones and upload the result to YouTube, and all you can think of is food and currency. And my blouse. I curse your blouse. I spit upon its memory and wish it to Jehannam. But it had kittens, fluffy ones, in a basket. The gerund, weary of this discourse, and anxious to proceed with matters closely aligned with trampling and goring and or escarpmental precipitation, pawed the ground again, snorted and gave a booming bellow. Let me handle this, said Stacy to Stacy. I'm good with animals. You're going to feed him some kelp? Inquired Stacy. Have you allowed us time to change into a wetsuit, travel to Tarrant Point and dive for it? Also, have you a license from the authorities for harvesting kelp? Nice gerund. Good gerund, crooned Stacy, with a special I love animals, they are so cute, can we be friends smile. That's a great bellow, very musky and manly and all. Have you been practising? This patronising patter merely sent the gerund into a frantic frenzy of syntactic rage. It launched itself towards the hapless lasses. It is not too much to say that the surrounding granite heights boomed with the clamour of its coming. Goodbye, Stacy, babe. It was nice knowing us. Same. Do you believe in an afterlife? I didn't. Until now. It suddenly has an appeal. Dying is a real downer if you think life has no purpose. Right. Bye. Bye, dees. And just at that moment, suddenly, from Stacy's left boot, came a most dreadful howl. The Flight of Staasi, Part 14, in which the Staasii encounter mortal peril. What has gone before? The Staasii stand on the edge of a cliff. Sheer it is, fatal a fall would be. A charging buck-gerund they face. Enraged it is, left to live only seconds. Have they not even time for complete sentences? With words in the order right, they are horror frozen, with backward run sentences until reels the mind. Then, A, sudden, all of. Now read on. From Stacy's left and non-jingling boot came a howl. In previous parts of this narrative, we have attempted to describe the howl of a marmoset and have despaired of the task. There is nothing like it on Earth, unlikely to be anything approaching it on the Moon, and definitely nothing resembling it on any other planet in the solar system, including the gas giants Saturn and Uranus, but not including Mars, where NASA reports that the Curiosity rover has found traces of marmoset, or magnesite, possibly Vegemite. Nonetheless, and notwithstanding, Araldite, the Vegemite, has emerged from Stacy's boot, and goodness gracious is she enraged. Her sleep has been disturbed, and she has woken in a bad humour, which happens with lemurs and transgender Callitrichidae. As attentive readers will have known, Araldite entered this narrative as a female, and here and there was referenced to as he, so some pronouns seem to have fallen into the tumble dryer and got all tangled up with the Playtex 18-hour non-wire number, but it all comes out in the wash, and Araldite now identifies as female. Now Vegemite, or Araldite, emerges from an untinkled boot and scampers up to a Stacy's shoulder. The rampaging gerund is almost upon them, when Araldite sets off a scream like a runaway steam locomotive on a downhill grade, with the throttle open and the driver slumped unconscious over his Westinghouse valve and the fireman helplessly inebriated on Gatorade, swinging on the whistle cord. Only louder, more alerting. The gerund, never having encountered a marmoset howl or scream on this or any other planet, is appalled, affronted, and aghast. He jams his mighty brutal hoofs into the loose scree of the mountain trail in an attempt to stop his rampant charge, and throws himself sideways to avoid this shrieking menace. Alas for the buck gerund, he skids on the scree, he scrabbles for a grip, he turns away, leaping and writhing his great shaggy body in an agony of escape. But he has chosen unwisely, and over the cliff he goes, with a rasping roar of regret and remorse. The Staasi give a small sigh of relief and look carefully over the edge of the precipice. It is a long way down, and the gerund is still tumbling, ugly head over hoofs, as it falls. "Pity," says Stacy, who after all has a kind heart and also a menagerie. "We were getting along so well. Given time we could have been friends, I'm sure of it." She weeps. "I don't want to see him die. He couldn't help attacking us. It was his instinct. Girls in boots, hiking up mountain tracks in cleverly cut jackets, it always sets them off, gerunds. It was unfeeling of me. I have a sense of obligation and loss." The Stacy watched as the gerund plummeted ever closer to the tumbled broken boulders at the foot of the cliff. His blaring bellows could be heard, now loud, now softer, borne on the updraft that fanned the Stacy-Eye's tearful visage and lifted her hair and ruffled Araldite's ears. But the gerund did not crash in ruins to the boulders, tumbled. From his shaggy flanks, wings unfolded, great dirty triangular foils of dark webbed skin like a Bunnings shade sail, and he rose, flopping and hooting and hollering, and clumsily flapped away down the valley, sending herds of gerenooks and goats and guelphs scampering into the boskage in terror. "Well, that was unexpected," remarked Inner Stacy. "Not entirely," said Outer Stacy. "I guessed all along that he was in fact just a hippogriff trying to scare us. He did it fairly well, don't you think?" "Oh, 100%, agreed Stacy, blowing her nose on a designer tea towel.
"And now can we expect your company, ladies? I'm not getting any younger up here,"
said a voice from some way above. "It's the granny and the cranny," said Inner Stacy. "We must get on. I do hope she has things to tell us that are of use in our quests, after all we've been through, and there might be more challenges ahead. I do hope that to reach her we don't have to cross a perilous bridge with frayed cables and missing slats, which swings alarmingly as we pick our way over. And I hope we don't encounter a cackling, unwashed homeless man with borderline personality disorder who won't let us pass unless we solve a brain-turning riddle. Or a violent storm with thunder and lightning and freezing deluging rain and trees crashing down around us. Or a plague of wasps. Or a raging volcano puking lava in rivers and spitting white-hot pebbles at us. Or street theatre.
"Hurry up, you two."
They toiled over a sharp and steepish ridge and came to a halt. Ahead of them was a gorge, the bottomless kind. To cross it, there was only a ratty old footbridge, which was already swaying in the wind from a gathering storm. From the gorge rose a menacing hum of angry, vengeful wasps in their stinging thousands, and from under a tarpaulin nearby, surrounded by enough rubbish to fill a municipal waste transfer station, came the cackle and foul odour of an itinerant hoarder and bag person. "At least there's no volcano." From behind them came the jangle of badly tuned guitars and the chant of socio-political satire. They turned and saw unkempt persons dressed in clownish outfits and contrary attitudes, dancing and banging tambourines, some on stilts, some staggering about in vast and hideous papier-mâché heads, caricaturing prominent persons of whose opinions they disapproved. "Street theatre! And there's no escape by turning back. Araldite, anything you can do to help?" But Araldite gave a soft wail of dismay, rarely heard on this planet, and dived down deep into Stacy's boot. The Flight of Staasi, Part 15, in which Stacy avoids mortal peril but loses service. What has gone before? The dynamic dyad have escaped annihilation thanks to the timely howl of Araldite the marmoset, who has also acknowledged her primary woman self and identified as pretty much female. The Stacy have toiled further up the slopes of Mount Thankless, but have encountered yet another impediment to their progress. Several impedimenta indeed, including but not limited to an impassable gulf, a shaky footbridge, a shonky guardian thereof, wasps displaying oppositional defiant behaviours, a volcanic eruption, an impending titanic storm cell likely to uproot trees, hurl boulders about, cause flash flooding, and raise inundations of reporters in anoraks shouting into microphones, and worst and most testing of all, street theatre. Now read on. "We are in a right fix," frowned Stacy the Outer. "By the power of Greyskull, you're right," agreed Stacy the Inner. "I see no way forward and no way back. We are faced with the following choices. We attempt to cross the shaky footbridge, which either collapses beneath us so that we plunge to our death in the bottomless gorge of despair, or it swings so dizzily that we lose our balance and plunge to our death in the bottomless gorge of despair. We are attacked by swirling swarms of vicious hymenoptera, whose sting can cause anaphylactic shock, shingles and climate change denial. And as we run about, wildly swatting and cursing and trying to escape them, we miss our footing and plunge to our death in the bottomless gorge of despair. We are quizzed remorselessly and cryptically by the stinky derelict who lives amid that trash heap, and failing to answer him correctly and neatly double-spaced on one side of the page only, are hurled by him to our death in the bottomless gorge of despair. The terrible storm now brewing brings a wind so powerful that we are blown off our feet to our death in... but you've guessed. The impossibly snotty and pompous manner and assertions unsupported by empirical and verifiable evidence from refereed sources, along with the terrible acting of the street theatre troupe, so destroy our will to live that we throw ourselves into the as above. It appears that the bottomless gorge of despair option wins each time, concluded Inside Stacy thoughtfully, but at least we have so far been spared the volcanic eructation, involving, as it might be, rivers of boiling lava and red-hot rocks falling like mortar shells around us. Ouch. What was that? A red-hot rock. Just missed me, but it made my zips jingle. We need a plan. Can you think of anything? Yes. Not your blouse again. The one with the kittens. It's a lovely blouse. Scorched, but it doesn't show when I wear it under a bolero. Now I have thought of another scenario. Then let us hear it soonest. But you always know what I know. On this occasion I want you to spell it out so that the world can hear. Speak it trippingly upon the tongue. All right then. Now let's just say, that the boiling lava arrives, hissing and scorching and incinerating every living thing in its path. You evoke the scene so vividly, I can imagine myself engulfed in the furious fuming torrent of molten crust and mantle. I see us expiring in a superb pillar of lilac flame. Pray continue. Well, what if the lava instead poured over the edge of the bottomless gorge of despair and killed all the wasps? But it might also set fire to the bridge of collapsing hopes. Indeed it does, and thereby rids us of that terrible risk, because do you know what I've got to tell you? I do not. Oh, okay, I do, but go on. That dreadful storm with the deluging rain and the typhonic winds and all that class of thing, well, would you credit it? It blows down these huge trees, massive they are, and they fall across the bottomless pit of Watson and form a sturdy bridge. And the hail of white-hot rocks, they crash down in their hundreds onto the bridge and set it alight. No, you'll never guess what. The rain extinguishes the flaming rocks, and they are packed down so tight that they form a fine road, much as the dear old Romans once built there. Now, did you ever? And the crazy bag person? And the street theatre? Those maniacs move in with that madman and form a cooperative. They argue forever about what to call their commune and what should be included in their articles of association and which methods of electing a rotating coordinator and quarterly executive committee they should prescribe so as to ensure that no faction arising among them can form a power base. I expect that should keep them busy for decades, at least until we cross the bridge of massive trunks. And do we think there is the slightest chance of all this happening? Look around us, it has. And lo, it had happened, just as Outer Stacy had prophesied. And they looked upon the bridge of massive trunks and saw it was good and sturdy and would carry them on their quests, both major and subsidiary. And they cautiously peered over the edge of the fathomless declivity of hopelessness, and lo, it was without wasps. And they gazed up at the sky, and it was without clouds. And the day was clear, and the air was fresh, and the landscape was free of catastrophic nucleus intrusions and descending missiles, and from deep amid the pile of litter nearby came the sound of emotion being lost and a point of order being raised, and the voice of the doer was heard in the land.
Are you quite done with all that drama and dallying?
It asked peevishly.
I have other pilgrims to advise and counsel to dispense, to acolytes who don't keep me waiting like certain parties I could name, who taunt rampant verb forms and haven't even enough sense to come in out of the rain.
We're coming, said Outer Stacy. Sorry. And they stepped onto the bridge of sturdiness which bore them with fortitude. Awesome, said Inner Stacy. Cool, said Outer Stacy. Wow, we must be amazingly high on this eminence thing. Wow, let me check if I have any service and stuff. She reached down into her boot. Oh no, I must have dropped it somewhere, or maybe it's in my other boot. I gasp. It's not here either. Neither is my theodolite, and neither is eraldite. The Height of Stacy, Part 16. In which the Stacii meet with a witch. What has gone before? By an extraordinary stroke of luck, chance, happenstance, serendipity, or just flagrant authorial contrivance, the communal organism known as the Stacii has evaded certain extinction. They have proceeded upon their quests, principal and secondary, and in case the attention of any reader is wandering, the quests on the tapis are as follows. The recovery of the stolen Moira, the discovery of the absent marmoset, the location of the lost smartphone, the fetching of the golden doubloon, the clarification of the entire purpose of this outlandish emprise. That is the current and acknowledged mission statement of the corporation known as Stacy and Stacy Incorporated in New South Wales. The liability of the members is limited. No refunds. You pet it, you own it. The judge's decision is final and no correspondence will be entered into. Conditions apply. We value your privacy and ours, so mind your own damn business. All orders attended to promptly and courteously. You are assured of our best attention at all times. Errors and omissions accepted. All rights reserved. Now read on. The Stacey's internal and external divisions hurry across the bridge of fallen forest giants, stepping carefully among the packed cascade of heated stones, some still steaming, some glowing, several fuming, and one or two not on speaking terms. The Stacii reach the opposite edge of the gorge of abject and unspeakable terror and unplumbable depths, and Outer Stacy has a question. I have a question. Why does everything we encounter on this absurd jaunt have a pompous name, in capital letters and with additional adjectives and everything? I meant to say, the gorge of abject and unspeakable terror. I was daunted by it, even slightly taken aback. Was I silenced? I merely asked the question. No, replied Inner Stacy, you were not silenced. You are rarely silent when it comes to issues like bottomless gorges and such. You are likely to dilate upon these matters extensively, and even digress towards marginal matters to do with blouses and kittens and kelp. Silent you're not. Well then, what is it with these absurd and pretentious cognomens for plain objects like clefts and bridges and hills and beasts, Inner Stacy contemplated the notion for a time. It lends these things dignity, she concluded, and therefore, by extension, ourselves, for were we to encounter obstacles having merely mundane designations, they would thereby lack significance, and our alarmed response to them would seem disproportionate. We and our quests would accordingly be diminished. We might be suspected of overreacting, even making a lot of fuss about nothing, big-noting ourselves, but if the threats we face have grandiose titles, I don't see that we have overthought the threats we have faced. I have been deeply alarmed. Often. In fact, on occasion I wished that I still wore the crucifix I adopted for protection as a younger and more credulous person. I never knew that. You wore a crucifix? Of silver? Where? On a chain around your neck? Never mind where I wore it. It was close and personal and comforting, and I had no need to remove it when I showered. Now I see that we are approaching what must be the upper reaches of this trek. I observe a stony shelf or rocky ledge. It is a shelf long in memory and deep in learning, and must have somewhere along its extremity a place where an odorous anorexic cave-dwelling eremite might crouch in rags and eminence and dispense nostrums. "There she is," said Stacy, pointing in her excitement, albeit she knew it was rude to point. At crouching eremites, anyway, for the ways of eremites are mysterious, and they are subtle and quick to anger. "Touchy buggers, eremites," agreed Stacy, "as also are sages and mages and founts of wisdom and philosophers and mavens, as well as sibyls and soothsayers. Short-tempered and given to snits and sulks they are. It's all this wisdom and law they have to lug around with them and dispense on demand to ninny-hammers and nudniks and numpties, who just because they schlep up a hill or so and chase off a griffin or whatever, think they are mighty masters of the universe or whatever and deserve enlightenment, or whatever. It is to laugh, or whatever." The hag on the crag beckoned them with a crooked finger, an aquiline nose, a receding chin, and outstanding ears. She also had bags under her eyes, furrows on her forehead, seams on her cheeks, botoxed lips, and waving dewlaps. It would have been advisable for the Stacy-eye to view the doer as a reflection in a brightly polished vambrance, lest they turn to stone. "Alas," sighed Stacy, "not only do I not possess a vambrance, I do not know what be a vambrance, and so lacking both a vambrance and any knowledge of same, I must fain face the doer in the face, and envisage whatever follows. Tho's death, I gaze upon it with resolve, though not in silence, but I think it best not to disturb she who must be consulted just at present, for I discern that she is engaged with another client. Upon the ledge, upon the phone, on your phone, in fact." Stacy the outer looked and frowned and even fumed a bit. It is! That's my phone! Oh, the witch! Who's she calling and where? My plan doesn't include ethereal roaming to Hades or Nirvana or Shangri-La or whatever. I'm never going to financially recover from this." The doer finished her call and stowed the phone away in some uncleanly portion of her person.
"So, at last you've arrived,"
she chortled, as though this fact was somehow amusing to her. "Yes, no thanks to you," said outer Stacy, who was wondering what her visa statement would look like at the end of the month, if this were a month, or perhaps some just immeasurable stretch of eternity, world without end, amen. "We have faced perils unimaginable," said outer Stacy reprovingly, "trials and tests beyond conceptual grasp, and all you can do is smirk."
"It's a lonely life for a sage in a cage,"
remarked the doer with a sigh.
"We have to take what fun we can get. Anyway, I know it was a lengthy and fraught journey,"
said the doer consolingly,
"and you must be both hungry and thirsty and anxious to settle down on a sofa somewhere for Netflix and chill. So here."
And the doer reached behind her.
"Here is a remote, and back there in the cave is a modular lounge, and if you're feeling peckish..."
The doer held out a steaming bowl.
"Here is a casserole of marmoset. Enjoy."
The Blight of Stacy, Part 17.
In which Stacy is cruelly deceived.
What has gone before? Having escaped almost certain death, or at least considerable inconvenience arising from serious injury and a long and tiresome convalescence in a public ward with bossy nurses and daytime television and volunteer hospital visitors sitting on her bed and being chatty and tiresome, the Stacyists have at last reached the peak of Mount Menace and have met the wretch on the crest. Hoping for enlightenment with respect to a great many issues, up to and including missing Moiras, golden doubloons, absent apes, and retirement investment strategies, they are instead invited to sprawl on a modular lounge and watch mind-numbing televisual twaddle, which would have been fine with them, the Stacyists, being beat after a day of applied peril and narrow escapes. They would have been pleased had the doer offered them a carrot or something to chow down on, a metre of sugar cane, twigs, yams perhaps. Instead, the hag on the crag offers them a steaming casserole, its principal ingredient being marmoset. Now read on. Marmoset stew, are you serious? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Omg? What is Omg? Is it a city in Kazakhstan? What's the big deal anyway? You maybe don't like marmoset? I could add a little barbecue sauce if the flavour is a tad confronting, with a side of fried mice. You happy?
I am seriously unhappy. That's my best beastly friend you're talking about, sobbed the Stacyists, interior and exterior both.
Your best friend is a stew? Takes all kinds. Myself, I prefer people.
In stews?
Some of the finest of them end up that way.
And you eat them?
No, I help them to come to terms with their inner marinated selves. Acceptance of their ingredients, acknowledgement of their methods of preparation, and their unique combination of secret herbs and spices.
You speak in riddles, said Stacy tearfully.
It's what I do.
Poor Araldite, poor baby.
So I'm guessing you're not having any of this? Better make up your mind, it's getting cold.
No, I am not having it. And anyway, I'm a vegan.
Vegan? That's a city in Nevada, isn't it? They don't like casseroles there? Religious thing, is it?
It's just horrible, that's what it is. And I wish that casserole had never happened, and I wish I hadn't come up here, and I wish one of us had never been born.
That can be arranged,
said the hag, and she vanished. What just happened then? Asked Stacy, who was staring in stunned, though not silent disbelief, around her, for she was back in the valley of descent, and the mountain of profound inquiry was looming high above. And joy of joys, Araldite was perched on her shoulder, chirrubilling and grumping and spilging, because those are the kind of noises marmosets make when they are ingesting. In this case, Araldite was gobbling a huge and overripe mangosteen. The juice was dripping onto outer Stacy's shoulder, and was positively going to ruin her svelte designer jacket with the cleverly devised pockets. And I don't care if it does, said outside Stacy, and she said it firmly. I'm just so pleased to have Araldite back with us. And in one piece, added inner Stacy. Can be so crude sometimes. Anyways, how did we get back here? I think, said inward Stacy, now don't quote me on this, but I heard somewhere that if you consult the hag on the crag, you mean the freak on the peak, the frump on the hump, whatever, well, whoever seeks to gather wisdom from her is allowed only 3 wishes. Like I wish I knew the end of the quest, like I wish I understood superannuation retirement funding strategies, like I wish I could remember my PIN. I didn't know that. I don't recall seeing stuff about wishes in my brief with respect to consulting the hag. Yes, well, not only do you get only 3 wishes, the hag tries to trick you out of them. Like I wish that casserole had never been made, and we wish that we'd never climbed the mountain, and we wish that the pill on the hill had never been born. Stacy's boot began to play a twinkly tune. Not the zippified percussion, but her phone, which had also been restored. She fished it out and tapped. "Hello, new phone, who dis?"
I heard that,
said a voice, near and distant, comforting and consoling, like a favourite auntie who would never try to deceive you with tricksy, twisty avoidance strategies.
You can't get rid of me that easily.
I wished you'd never been born, didn't I?
But I never was born. I expect I just growed.
Laughed the hag, so
Stick that in your boot and tote it.
and she tapped off. She got us a beauty. We are no wiser than when we started out, despite the dreadful exigencies encountered during our ascent of the Mount of Doubtfulness. The harpy on the scarp cleverly avoided having to grant us any boon of substance. She said she was never born, that she just growed, but that means I still have 1 wish left. What shall it be? Wisdom in the selection of investment strategies? Too many things I could wish for. Actually, I'm finding it hard to concentrate with Araldite munching that mangosteen in my ear. Wish you'd hurry up and fetch... Oh, my God, oh no, me and my big wish! For Araldite slobbered down the last goblet of fruitfully goodness in a trice, and in a further trice had spat out all the seeds, scurried down into Stacy's boot, and snuggled down to slumber. And Stacy's final wish had been squandered due to a moment of inattention. "The hag got us again," Stacy's phone chimed. "Yes," said Stacy, and she did not use her welcoming voice. Laughed the hag and hung up. "Call her back and laugh at her," cried internal Stacy. Stacy frowned at her phone. "No service," she said, "and my battery is nearly flat, and night is coming on, and I'm getting cold, and I'm tired, and I'm hungry, and I wish all this was over, and I wish I was at home watering my window boxes and schmoozing with my menagerie and ironing my blouse, and I wish I could take a shower and wash my hair, and I wish the tumble dryer would finish its cycle so I could have some clean undies, that's all." "Not much to ask, surely," sighed inner Stacy, who suffered just as much as outer Stacy, maybe even more, because she had to listen to outer Stacy moaning. "Make 1 more wish," said inner Stacy, "just 1, to round out this day and its innumerable vexations. Your time starts now." "Fine," said outside Stacy. "I will," said outside Stacy. "I wish," said outside Stacy. I wish that we could find the golden doubloon." All this time they had been trudging, although with only one pair of boots, there being in fact only one Stacy, despite the bipartite nature of her persona, down into the valley of downness. But so busy were they with their downcast boot-gazing discourse that they had paid no heed to where they were wending, and when they paused in their trudgingness, they looked up and found themselves drawing closer to a rustic wayside inn with lead lights and wainscots and escutcheons and thatching and exposed beams and a sign over its door, the type of antique sign that swings in the wind and squeaks sonorously and picturesquely. And the Stacys looked up, and in the paling light of the setting sun the Stacys saw that the sign said, in archaic script like the Bible or the label of a wine that is trying to look old world and stuff,
A golden doubloon.
The Flight of Staasi, 18, in which Stacy finds the golden doubloon. What has, etc. Mysteriously translated from the Mount of Fruitless Inquiry to the Valley of Weary Trudging, the joint venture known as the Stacys has arrived unexpectedly and in need of rest and a meal and an explanation and a shower and a shampoo and blow-drying and free Wi-Fi and a change of lingerie at the forecourt of a hostelry which on the face of it seems quaint, oldie worldly, rustic, but also to their weary eyes somewhat bogus. Although the premises are half-timbered, pargeted, with mullioned windows and a horse trough and a hitching post outside, not to mention a boot scraper, which most clients do not recognise and have no idea how to use, also a set of stocks, the Stacys are glad to find some sort of accommodation, however twee. Now and so on. I can't see where they advertise the tariff, said Econo Stacy, or whether or not they take Visa, but let's take a chance. Surely we can get a double room in the off-season like this at a reasonable rate with breakfast. Breakfast being a mimsy cardboard box of bran flakes and a titchy bottle of tropical taste breakfast blend, snorted doubting Stacy, and a tea bag of daisy petal mix, which is what I have at home anyway, so what's your problem? Sniffed Econo Stacy. You know what else I need? She asked, as she leaned against the vast, battered, oldie-worldly wooden door, torn from a colonial-era stable, and forced it open. What we need is a break from each other. Seriously, I tire of your censorious discourse. I can't do a thing right in your narrow-eyed, mean-mouthed opinion. And I'm weary of your impulsive actions and poor judgment. I have to simmer here while you choose the worst option on every occasion. Was it me who chose to have parts of our anatomy embedded with pins and rings and crucifixes, and our epidermis endorsed with purplish indelible illustrations, as though we were the walls of some Paleolithic cave? I've heard all this before. So that 60-year-old us will shout down the years to 30-year-old us, "What the hell were you thinking, girl? Tattoos? You look like a railway cutting or abandoned factory, and now we lack the dignity a woman of senior years deserves." Heard all that too. And adding an extra A to our name, what's up with that? You have no sense of style. I have twice your sense of style, even though you're only half of our act. Had reached the old world check-in desk. It had once been the altar of a fine old chapel, wrought with skill and reverence by highly trained craftspersons from rare timbers, sensitively and respectfully sourced from old-growth forest giants of vast girth and deep wisdom, yet not smart enough to avoid being felled by persons with smarter and sharper chainsaws of much clamour and bite. Stacy limped up to the desk. It is hard to walk briskly and evenly with a smartphone stuffed down one boot, plus its charger and earbuds and Bluetooth keyboard, and a glutted marmoset crouched and slumbering in the other, and she rang the bell. The bell had been sourced from the lobby of a grand old hotel, built during the era of gold rush opulence, into whose palmed and carpeted and bestatued lobby diggers from Ballarat and Dunolly and the Turon had formerly swaggered, sporting Crimea shirts and cabbage tree hats, stamping about in top boots and moleskin breeches, lighting their cheroot with a £5 note, arm in arm with a rouged and simpering hoyden, ordering up champagne and rum and raspberry all round, paying their slate with a fistful of shotty nuggets or a weighty drawstringed pouch of gold dust. Now the bell rested on the pillaged, repurposed, upcycled front altar of a faux rustic inn and tavern, and Stacy rang it with a weary pointer from its scorching due to a recently rapidly passing rivulet of white-hot lava. From the office, after a suitable wait, sauntered a tall and skinny figure with an entirely shaved head, polished to a billiard ball shine, an ear stud, a tiny pink goatee, and an impatient manner.
Yes, what? I'm trying to do the books back there. It would test the patience of a saint, and I'm not up for a Mary MacKillop number. Some people I could mention have no more business sense than a marmoset. So who's left to carry the can at tax time? Little old dreary yours truly, once again. Anyway, what do you want? I'm flat out like a blue tongue on a yoga mat. Not a room, is it? Not a room. Promise me it's not a room you want. It's all I need.
"I'd like a room, please," said Stacy, trying to stifle a yawn.
Jiminy crickets, she wants a room.
I mean, hello, what with a spa and a masseur and a wet bar and a vibrating...
Empress-sized bed and a private dining alcove. Would that be sufficient, your majesty? Jeremy? Jeremy! Front and centre, gorgeous, we are not alone. A client, for crimini's sake, flouncing up to reception like my Lady Mulch and demanding the bridal suite, if you please. And I'm up to my dear little ears in allowable deductions for barista holiday loading in excess of line 18 over paragraph 12. As amended, I'm going mad. I really think I'm going mad. Jeremy? Jeremy!
From somewhere at the upper reaches of a fine, sweeping old staircase, with handsome carved handrails and turned balusters, came a peevish voice.
I'm hanging curtains up here, Terence. Can't you conduct a crisis on your own? I hear you have a talent for disasters. They named a hurricane after you, didn't they?
Oh, ha, ha, it is to laugh. Tonight's comedy spot features Jeremy. A big round of applause to welcome jolly Jeremy, please, I don't think.
"Please," said Stacy. "Just somewhere to lay my weary head, shower my aching body, wash my dusty hair, change my grubby clothes, charge my useless phone."
Oh, jeepers, anything more, princess? I mean, leave your boots outside the door and we'll lick them clean for you. And juice of some picky, precious flavour brought to you at daybreak on a silver salver when people who work hard for a living and slave all night at tax returns are trying to catch some well-deserved shut-eye. Jeremy, what do we have available for Cleopatra here?
The only room ready is the grey oubliette. Single bed with truckle, no reading lamp or TV, one chair, tin wash basin and jug. Curtains don't match, one spare blanket, no sewing kit.
"I'll take it," said Stacy at once. "Do you take Visa?" Just then Araldite woke, scuttled up and perched on Stacy's shoulder. The receptionist gave a window-shattering scream. Over the sound of falling panes, his voice shrilled out.
No pets! Oh, Jehoshaphat, Jezra, it's her! It's her and that thing!
Jeremy appeared at the top of the stairs. No hair, but a sort of beard in tiny slices arranged on his jowls, like nouvelle cuisine.
What is it, Trans? Oh, my God!
He hurried down the stairs, the tassels on his loafers flapping, and cringed behind the reception altar.
Oh, my God!
"Oh, my God, oh, my God, it's her, Miss Greenpieces!"
Destroyer of well-paying horticultural enterprises.
And her thing, the hairy leaping horror that causes yawns.
"Yours," said Stacy, yawning. "Anyway, that's just an urban myth. Which is my room? Give me my key. Please, hurry up, or I'll set my marmoset on you. And Araldite doesn't take prisoners." The two proprietors flinched in terror. "Take any room you like," said Terence, extending a key. "Just go and take that spawn of Beelzebub with you. Any room, except room 222.
Except room 222, said Jeremy.
Oh, yes, agreed Terence, not room 22.
No, wait, hissed Jeremy. Send her to room 222, he snickered.
Oh, yes, said Terence, good idea. Yes, you can have room 222.
And he snickered in concert with Jeremy and proffered a different key. "What's wrong with room 222? asked Stacy. The spluttering couple did not answer. They timidly pushed a card reader towards her. Stacy tiredly tapped her Visa card on its display. The machine lit up like a southwest Sydney housing estate at Christmas time and played a merry digital ditty, which aficionados of Broadway musicals would recognise as "We're in the money, we're in the money." Well, I don't care, even if the sheets don't match. It will do me for tonight. And she set off up the stairs with Araldite bounding along ahead of her.
"Farewell and adios, sweet cheeks,"
whispered Terence.
Yes, can't say it was nice knowing you,
added Jeremy with a simper.
Terence, you can cancel those bran flakes and a tropical sunshine good morning mix. I have a feeling there will be no takers for breakfast.
The Bright of Stacy, Chapter 19. in which the Stacy are calculating. What has gone before? The weary Stacy, worn after a day of Stacying, has come upon a wayside inn with a squeaky sign and a mullioned horse trough and such. She has wearily made her way to the check-in counter, warily rung the bell, and worriedly observed the palaver and turmoil that has arisen from her attempting to book a room from the hysterical double act who appear to manage the mélange, these being the former proprietors of a horticultural emporium, a bower of floristation and vestibule of vegetabulature, also purveyors of polythene meerkats and concrete nymphs, which squirt water from surprising places. But this chucklesome couple were forced into receivership by the Moira. Remember the Moira? Causing all their drooping budget punnets to burst into bloom and become a mighty sweaty darkish jungle infested with mambas and a marmoset. After raking in some short-term cap from a roadside stall selling decaying fruit and veg set up on a highway median strip without municipal authorisation, the duet known to the nursery traders Xylem and Floem, Incorporated, also Tizzer and Jizzer Investments, have purchased a remote and decrepit motel and restaurant with mini golf course and sculpture garden and are refurbishing it with a view to attracting custom from freewheeling same-sex couples looking for a no-strings and no-holds-barred, fully catered weekend escape experience with no questions asked and a disco Saturdays until late and weeping workshops every Sunday. That is their backstory, all rights reserved, trademark registered. Exhausted Stacy has waspishly demanded accommodation, even threatening the troublesome doublesome with a loaded marmoset. She has been awarded the pass key to room 222, not without a good deal of sniggering and also spluttering and smirking from the gruesome twosome, and as she ascends the grand old staircase, wrenched from some handsome and pitiable Victorian-era mansion, she cannot help wondering how many stars this room 222 would rate in the gross guide to sus stays. Now read onwards. I cannot help wondering, said visible Stacy, how many stars, added virtual Stacy, this room 222 would rate, if any, if, as you say, any at all, in the totally gross guide to sus stays. The current edition? The very latest. I sense a great disturbance in the force, as though millions had cried out in terror, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, don't stay here, I'm like totally serious." Exactly, and oh my God is not even a city in Nebraska. By now, Stacy had reached the landing at the top of the stairs and was staring about her vexedly. I see corridors stretching away from me to the left and to the right, far into the dim distance. I see doors evenly spaced with peeling paint and scuffed stiles and sills, but not one bears a number. "Is this the first floor, or the 14th, or the 40th?" she asked. And Stacy asked this in a manner which indicated that she was irked as well as vexed. Peradventure it is just one floor, though of vast, even infinite dimension. Surely not. From the outside, this crummy caravanserai seemed no larger than a tanning salon, or perhaps a doggy day spa. Alas, appearances like moonlight can be cruelly deceptive. Just think of that blouse of mine with the kittens. If I'm wearing a bolero, you'd never know it had a scorch mark. I knew. Did you tell? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Wouldn't you like to know? I do know. I know that you know. And I know that you know that I know. And please, not now. I am dog-tired. Let us solve the present conundrum and find a bed. No matter if the sheets are floral and flannelette and have not been aired since the Eureka Stockade Arts, Crafts and Kite Day. I need to sleep. Indeed. Now let us presume that the rooms leading off to the left have odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on, and the rooms to the right of us are evenly numbered 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. You follow? So all we have to do is walk to the right and count doors until we reach the 111st, which will be room 222, unless they have been numbered in the Fibonacci sequence, in which case there will be no room 222. By the living Harry, you are right. And if they are numbered logarithmically, I shall sleep in this corridor and set fire to the joint before I leave. Surely we can choose any room. I have the key to room 222 and have paid a deposit on it, which may not be refunded if I do not return it when checking out. Or if the golden doubloon is reduced to a heap of blackened hardwood studs and smoking mountain ash, you wouldn't really burn it down, would you? I reserve my decision. And as for occupying any room, as you will have observed, I have tried several, and this key doesn't fit any of them. I know. Then let us move on, counting carefully. I make it 32, which means room 16. I make it 24. I lost count while we were arguing about the Fibonacci sequence. Damnation and dimorphism. We'll have to start all over again. At this point, Eraldite gave a squeak of joy, jumped off Stacy's shoulder and scampered away into the gloom ahead. Where is she off to? It's like she suddenly heard someone calling her. Another little mystery for us to tangle with, and I have a notion. Share it with those of us assembled here, however sketchy. This room 222. How do that prancing pas de deux downstairs know where it is? Do they spend their days pacing and counting doors? I think not. They must have some means of identifying room 222, even if only to avoid it. Yea, verily, you speak truth. Let us hurry onwards, pursuing the wayward Eraldite, and examining each door for some telltale sign that distinguishes it from its fellows, or else I'm just going to pass out and sleep among the foul linen in this laundry trolley. Onwards they hurried. Door after door they passed, each the identical and shabby fellow of its predecessor, until they came to a portal that was somehow subtly different. It was painted day-glow orange, had red crucifixes scribbled everywhere in permanent marker, and scrawled across it from top to bottom in huge letters with a curious arcane legend. Oh my God,
Time to get serious.
Could this be it? Stacy wondered. It would be easy to find out. I shall try my key. She set her key in the lock and turned it. There was a click. Stacy turned the doorknob and pushed the door open a little way. From inside there came a deep and, yes, a menacing growl. The Delight of Stacy, Part 20, in which some animals are involved. What has gone before? Having signed in, and having been assigned a room, and having been given a key, after having given a deposit, and having an urgent need for a good night's rest, Stacy has climbed the grand old staircase to the upper levels of the Golden Doubloon boutique, short stay and home of flagrant assignation. Stacy has cleverly deduced that the forbidden room 222 must be the only one in a passage of many blank doors, which is clearly identified, and having found room 222 and passionately thrust her key deep into the lock and twisted it boldly, and having opened the door just a smidgen, she is confronted by a growl. And is given pause. Now read upon. That was a most unfriendly growl. It was unwelcoming and unwonted. Were I to enter room 222, I might come to harm. I could be torn limb from limb, or bitten deeply and grievously by cruel, slavering, rabid jaws, the flesh torn from my hapless person in huge bleeding chunks, or I might merely be clubbed unconscious by a mighty paw, then clawed to rags and ribbons, and my blood-soaked corpse dragged into the upper boughs of a thorn tree, and hung there to be consumed at leisure. All that would remain of me, for anyone wanting to learn my fate, would be a single jingling zipper. So it would be wiser if I stayed outside room 222 and slept in a cleaner's closet. On the other hand, there may be a kettle in there, so I can make some daisy petal tea. And since I am dying for a cup of daisy petal, here goes. After all, I am good with animals. And she thrust the door of room 222 open wide. Room 222 was as black as the inside of a cleaner's closet, and just as stuffy. Stacy heard a scuffle and a clatter of claws as something rushed away into the darkness. The feeble light of a dim and dusty emergency exit sign in the corridor was reflected in a dozen or more pairs of eyes watching her. Some orbs were low, some were high, some were about the middle range, but also a little to the right. The eyes were tinged with the iridescent green of predatory carnivores. The eyes were unwinking and appeared both hungry and not easily appeased. Baleful is the usual word applied to eyes appearing in such circumstances. It has been stated at the outset of this fustian frolic that Stacy was no wilting lily. If we are quoting correctly, the words used were,
Stacy is no wimp, eh? No one pushes her around and stuff.
and though we deplore the loopy style, we endorse the observation. Stacy had courage. She faced all challenges with resolve. She shrank not from risk, especially when there was a chance of daisy petals steeped in boiling water at bedtime. She reached and felt around the wall where a light switch ought to be positioned in any well-designed guest accommodation. She found a light switch. She flicked it on. Such a sight met her eyes that for a moment she could not believe them. Her eyes, that is. Seated on the faded rug at her feet, and panting a welcome were her dogs, Aspirin and Nurofen. Huddled on top of a ratty old wardrobe and staring down at Stacy were her 4 kittens, Eeny, Meeny, Miny and Mo. In a cage on the dresser, her pygmy possums were busily running in their wheel, climbing their tiny ladder, combing their neat little whiskers, hanging on the wire mesh and gazing at Stacy with huge, light-dazzled eyes. Her Asperger's ferret was hunched in an armchair, rocking itself and shaking its head, while from the room nearby she could hear something splashing about, which her quick sense told her was a dugong in a cast-iron Metta's bathtub. The only thing missing from her menagerie were the rabbits and the ant farm. "And," said Stacy, "I never had any rabbits or an ant farm. Why would I want an ant farm? Somebody made that up just to make fun of me. I may have the makings of a crazy cat lady, but I draw the line at rabbitry. And ants. It is hard enough keeping the little buggers out of my hydroponic herbarium. Why should I farm the bloody little buggers? And rabbits would just eat me out of house and bloody home, they being vegan buggers. And one more thing is missing," added Stacy. Just then she heard a scratching sound coming from the corridor. Ready for anything, she strode to the door and flung it wide. Again. Araldite it was, and Araldite scuttled into room 222, dragging a sack behind her. Stacy picked up the sack as Araldite clambered to the top of the wardrobe and crouched there, staring down amid the frieze of kittens. "Clean undies!" cried Stacy. "So that's where you went. With your acute forest-trained hearing, you detected my tumble dryer finishing its cycle and playing a digital dirge to alert the user." Stacy delved deeper in the bag. "My nighties, summer and winter weight, also mountain-strength socks and industrial-grade hankies. A dish towel with kittens. You are the bestest marmoset in the whole wide jungle." She looked around the room at her menagerie. "Can we wait until morning to settle the food question, guys? You may be hungry, but I am wrecked. Not even tea for me." There was a huge old iron-studded bed nearby. Stacy turned back the quilt. The sheets were old and flannelette, but they had kittens printed on them, and there was a scorch mark. And who cares? I am going to sleep here right now. And in a wink, or even half a wink, Stacy had slipped into a summer-weight cotton nightie with applique kittens, and she had crawled into bed. Then she crawled out of bed, schlepped across the room, switched out the light, and stumbled back. Immediately, all dogs and kittens present jumped onto the bed and snuggled up against her, or else burrowed down beside her. Araldite stayed on top of the wardrobe. The pygmy possums busily whirled in their wheel. The ferret clung to the armchair, rocking and softly moaning to itself. The dugong gave a contented grunt and submerged. "Well, isn't this cosy? We made it, kid. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? But we'll face it together. Hey, other me? Inner Stace, you there? Talk to me, babe. Sing me to sleep." But Inner Stacy was silent, because Inner Stacy had gone. The Night of Stacy, Part 21, in which Stacy and her menagerie seek breakfast. What has gone before? Stacy, weary, a little lost, and a bit lonely, has thrown caution to the wind and gone to bed with a dog. With 2 dogs, in fact, and 4 kittens, making a cosy sevensome. Also sleeping near but not with her is a disturbed ferret, several pygmy possums, a dugong, and Araldite the marmoset, who has stuck to her strongly all the way through this mad venture. Stacy has encountered, within the mysterious room 222, not the certain death and or disfigurement that the dipsy-doodle double act who run the Golden Doubloon predicted, but the recovery, by some inexplicable necromancy, of her menagerie, as described in an earlier episode, see Chapter 3. But on retiring to her well-deserved rest, Stacy, wanting a short sleepy time schmooze with her inner self, has discovered that her inner self is not there. Read on now. Stacy slept late. If there had been a bedside clock in this frowsty room, it might have told her that the time she woke, if of course it had been set correctly and not left by its negligent proprietors to blink 12 a.m. all day, or else had been reconfigured by a previous guest to display the hour in Nebraska or Kyrgyzstan. But there was no bedside clock, not even the kind that winds up and also winds down. And her phone battery was flat, and there was no service anyway, and no free Wi-Fi either, and it was just awful. None of this damped Stacy's spirits when she woke. When there was still a little morning, however late, to be enjoyed, she yawned, and yes, she stretched, and when she did, she detected warm, hairy bodies snuggled up beside her, and none of them had been met on Tinder. "It's just too wonderful to have you all with me again," Stacy murmured, luxuriating. "Isn't it, other me?" There was no reply. Stacy sat up and looked around her at the slightly shabby room 222. Immediately, a whole menagerie of eyes confronted her. Dogs and kittens sat in a row at the end of her bed. Pygmy possums, all 12 of them, hung on their cage's mesh and stared. The dugong was honking, and the ferret had stopped rocking and was gaping. The eyes, had anyone taken the trouble to count them, were many, and each conveyed a heart-rending message in 9 famishing letters, BREKFAST. "Yes," said Stacy, "we're all starving, and we wish to break our fast. Forthwith. Let us see what the dining room of the Golden Doubloon offers for a host of carnivores, vegans, and a consumer of marine delicacies." Showering with pleasure, though the water was only lukewarm and the soap was a worn sliver of motel freebie, and dressing with careless care, Stacy stepped out, bowled and booted and refreshed, into the drab corridor, followed by 2 alert and busy hounds, preceded by 4 bounding felines. She carried a cage of pygmy possums, she conducted an anxious-looking ferret on a lead, and a marmoset perched on her shoulder, scratching itself vigorously. The dugong had slept in, probably dreaming happily of beds of choice Terran Point kelp. Down the stairs tramped the troop and into the Golden Doubloon dining room. Terence was behind the bar, busily arranging bottles of liquor into a pyramid of polychrome enticement. He did not turn around.
What'll it be, folks? Cocktail time is any time at the Golden Doubloon. Let me mix you a toujours gay, or a guilt stifler, maybe a drink you pretty, or a red flag special, a long painful regret, stranger on my duvet, pillow biter, don't open those curtains, or an expensive spirit in a wasted shame. Name your poison, partner.
"We'd like some breakfast, please," said Stacy, and her menagerie all made noises of eager agreement, each according to its wont and custom. Terence turned around, took one look at the menagerie, and screamed like a back bar in torment.
Oh my God, it's Miss Virtue Signaller, Madam Pet Rescue in person. Listen, no companion creatures, no service animals, no fur babies, drug sniffers or carrier pigeons allowed. We are zero tolerant to all mammals, marsupials, muskrats, monotremes and whatever those things are that you have in that cage. Or the Uzi what's it on your shoulder. Jiminy Criminy, isn't it hideous? Does it always pick through your hair like that? How ghastly. And that thing you have in a lead, whatever it is, that's barred too. Jeremy, front and centre, I think I'm going to have one of my turns, Jezza. Where are you?
"We'd like some breakfast," said Stacy, ignoring this tirade. "I take it that the dining room is through these double-sliding, sand-blasted glass doors with brolgas etched upon them."
Jabiru's, I thought they were. Aren't they gorgeous? We just about stole them from this glorious old California bungalow that was being torn down. The wreckers almost paid us to take them away. I said to Jeremy, we ought to give the bloke something. I mean, even beer money. Look, I said, there's hardly a mark on them, and the handles are the original celluloid numbers. Bit yellow, but still.
"Breakfast?" asked Stacy again.
"Oh, gosh, it's all gas and gators this morning. All right, slide on through to the Escoffia room, and we'll see what we can rustle up. Jeremy! Light the primus sweetness and put on the billy for her ladyship. I don't know how she survived room 222, never set foot in it ourselves, all that growling."
Stacy and the gang swept into the dining room and selected a table for 12. She let Ference the ferret off his lead, and he scampered across the room, scrambled up a wall, and stared out at the Golden Doubloon forecourt through Stacy's theodolite, which had also been restored to her, along with her retinue of dependent mammals and marsupials. "He likes to count things, remember," said Stacy to the other members. "He's probably counting clouds or birds or—" In the distance, there was a faint rumble, as of thunder or an artillery barrage. It grew louder, stronger. Glasses rattled on tables, pictures on walls began to swing like pendulums do. A Kentia palm in a planter tipped over with a crash of kitsch. The silver on the sideboard danced and jangled, and some fell clanging and clashing to the floor. Ferenc was jumping up and down in an arithmetic ecstasy. "What is it, Ferenc, baby? Are you counting raindrops? Lightning flashes? It sounds like a storm is heading our way, perhaps with falling forest giants. You could count them too." Stacy went to the window to see, but no storm was brewing. No trees were swaying in agony as a typhonic wind swept over them. It was no storm at all. With a hoarse roar, 100 huge, doom-black and chrome-glinted motorcycles were pulling into the forecourt of the Golden Doubloon, spraying gravel. They were ridden by 100 hulking hirsute men, some in Nazi helmets, some with mighty beards, all wearing heavy boots and leather wristlets with studs, also chains and wraparound shades. The bikes pulled up in a long, hot, menacing row. The last in line was ridden by a bullock of a buffoon, who hauled his bike up on its stand, angrily kicked it, and stumped away. Stacy gave a gasp. So did Ferenc, and all her menagerie too. "That bike! It's the Moira!" The Rite of Stacy, Part 22,
in which the Moira proves non-compliant.
What has gone before? Hoping for some breakfast, our protagonist and her miscellany of furred familiars have made their way to the dining room of the Golden Doubloon, passing through a pair of exquisite, spectacularic, dang-blasted doors, with etched dancing brolgas and Art Nouveau Bakelite handles, and have occupied a table long enough for a last supper. While they await their tucker, they hear, coming from outside and from a distance, a growing clamour, cacophony and klishma-claver, as though 100 mighty motorcycles were approaching. Stacy and her special needs ferret Ferenc gaze out of the dining room window, and what do they spy? They espy not less than 100 mighty motorcycles thundering onto the forecourt of the Golden Doubloon. 100 hulkish men in chains and denim jackets and coal-scuttle helmets dismount, stretch their legs, break wind in tenor clef, remove their piratical headscarf and blow their noses in same, wipe their brows with same, then plod towards reception, checking their phones. Their colours announce to the world that they are the Fandango's motorcycle club and line dance troupe. A lone rider arrives a little later than the others. He is the hugest and most brutish of all, and after dismounting he kicks his motorcycle savagely. He then makes his way towards reception, cursing and snarling at his phone. Now read on. "That bike! His bike! It's the Moira!" gasped Stacy, in case anyone didn't hear her the last time. "And that Bogabri kicked her. And though I could not hear what he said, I suspect that he spoke harsh words to her, cruel and foul and unwarranted and uncouth." She returned to the breakfast table, deep in thought. From the bar outside came the mutter and rumble and guffaw of 100 heavy men conferring while slurping raspberry fizz and sarsaparilla. Heavy footwear boot-scooted on the floor to achy, breaking heart. Gross, knotted fists illustrated with skulls pounded upon the upcycled Wallamai pine bar, demanding lemon squash. Above the din, smartphones now and then played snatches of AC/DC and C&W and Strauss waltzes and copyright-free nursery rhymes. Breakfast did not arrive. "They are too busy pouring drink down the gullets of those galoots," fumed Stacy, "and dancing. While we wait here famished and fainting away, it's enough to make you sick. I'm going to give this place a bad review, just see if I don't. 1 star, that's all they'll get." An impulse overcame her. "Be damned if I'm going to sit here and starve and also allow some blowhard behemoth to batter my bike and say disrespectful things to it. What am I going to do, Inami?" Inami made no answer, for Inami was not there. Stacy jumped to her boots. She marshalled her menagerie and shouted, "Follow me, fellas!" Aspirin, Nurofen, Eeny, Meeny, Miny and Mo fell into step and marched behind her, while Araldite and Ferens perched on her shoulders. The pygmy possums whirred in their wheel and peeped softly. She marched out of the dining room and through the kitchen where Jeremy was stirring a cauldron of porridge with an oar.
Get those hideous things out of here. Do you want us to lose our licence? The health inspector would have a pink fit, and he's not a well man. I said to Tezza last time he was here staring into our chip fryer, I said to Tezza, that man is not well. It's all the snooping around he has to do in scungy kitchens. I said, and one day he'll just drop down dead right here on my nice clean tiled floor. Could eat your dinner off it, and then what'll we do? I said, excuse me very muchly, thank you so kindly, but how can I be expected to make a 5-course lunch with the corpse of a government official underfoot? I ask you, I said, this is the dizzied limit.
But none was listening. They were all scoffing down comestibles. Stacy, snooping around like a health inspector, had found tins of chum and cans of whiskers and a calabash of lucky ferret and a saucepan of mama soup and pygmy pellets, and for herself corn on the cob in a bed of pine needles. And by the time Jeremy had finished his rant, she and her fanimals had eaten their fill, including Jeremy's porridge, and schlepped out of the back door, while he yelled and danced about and waved his oar. Into the car park they scampered and cantered and skipped and bounded. Hurriedly, Stacy crammed her animalia into Moira's panniers and top box and jumped astride the bike, in of course a ladylike manner. "Let's go!" she shouted. "Come on, Moira, hit it! Hit the road, lass!" Nothing happened. "The Moira! The one and only the Moira! Ignite your twin cylinders and let's get out of here!" "The Moira, please!" A voice spoke quietly somewhere in Stacy's head. "Say you're sorry." I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Wait, what am I sorry for? For letting me get bike-napped by that man-bun sleaze and dragged around the countryside like an ox cart. I'm really sorry. And letting me be sold at auction to a great oafish biker who treats me like dirt, ignores all my innermost needs, uses me like I'm some sort of machine, and he cheats on me, sneaks off and rides a skanky little Kawasaki, and he thinks I don't know. I'm sorry for that too, truly, but can we go, please, now? I'll think about it. Those buffaloes in there will spot me in a minute taking this bike, and then there'll be a crazy, dangerous, high-speed chase like in a bad Hollywood movie. I don't want to be in a bad Hollywood movie. Don't even want to see one. Come on! Stacy looked up at the Golden Doubloon. The veranda. The Golden Doubloon has a veranda now, though it didn't before. And on the veranda, 100 bulky men stood, clutching schooners of raspberry fizz and grinning at her. Moira, can't we leave? Please, pretty please, with summer weight crankcase oil on it? Not yet. You've forgotten something. I've said I'm sorry, truly, deeply and respectfully sorry, and I really missed you, and profoundly regret the suffering I may have caused you, however inadvertently, and any possible damage to your self-esteem, short-term or lingering, and I meant to write to you, but you know how it is, stuff happens. It isn't me I'm thinking of, there's another. Skywalker? Not he. Then what? I mean who? Humphrey. Humphrey? Your dugong. You've left him upstairs in the Meta's cast-iron bathtub, room 222, crying out for kelp and Kunjivoy. Humphrey. Is that his name? I never knew. I always called him Albert. No wonder he didn't come when I kelped. So what are you going to do about him? I can't imagine. I don't even know how he got there. What should I do? Moira did not reply. There was no response from Inner Stacy, and all Stacy's menagerie was snoring, each in its own manner and pannier. Stacy got off the bike, in a ladylike manner, and stood wondering. There was a massive chuckle from the heavyweights convened upon the veranda.
Can't get started, honey buns. Gonna give yous a jump, eh?
Called a lofty lout, who appeared to be drowning in a morass of greasy hair. His chains shivered and tinkled with schadenfreude, and his vast belly trembled with much carbohydrate amusement.
Hey, clickbait!
Yelled another.
You can press my buttons any time.
Rumbling chortles greeted this sally, also rattling chains. Stacy stalked past the fandangos with her nose in the air. Her boots crunched on the gravel in a marked manner. Among their cluster buddy number was the dystopian sci-fi gender-free detective e-fiction author and podcaster Guy Longray Reed, who had a taste for rough trade. Guy squeaked something wounding and elusive, but alas, this well-turned personality he had so wonderfully confected went unheard. For another voice cried him down amid this surging sea of arrested socio-cultural development.
She can take the frickin' thing.
This Borborygmus of a voice spoke up, and a gross hog, clutching a schooner of ginger ale, shouldered his way to the front of the posse.
Good riddance, bitch cost me skin. Got a mind of her own like.
You're damn right I have, and I hope you will get yours, Stacy said under her breath, and made her way slowly upstairs towards room 222. Part 23,
in which Stacy suffereth a sea change.
What has gone before? The two-wheeled, two-cylinders, twin-headlighted, two-panniered, one-owner conveyance, known as the Moira, has returned to Stacy's world, wedded to an unfeeling chauvinist hog who ignores her needs and is violent and inconstant and unkempt and probably not in touch with his feelings. Stacy, therefore, attempts to rescue Moira, her steed of steel, the vector of all this adventure, and flee the golden doubloon and escape the valley of deepening declivity, and with her menagerie return somehow to the life she led and the home she had until recently occupied, and where she has possibly left the iron switched on. But the Moira has refused to move, reminding Stacy that she has left Humphrey the dugong awaiting his matutinal weed and sea squirt souffle in the bathtub of room 222, and until Stacy deals satisfactorily with this issue, the Moira will not budge a millimetre. The crude fellows who crowded onto the veranda, which has now attached itself to the golden doubloon, chortle at Stacy's bootless efforts to shift the Moira. They shout out comic and crass offers of assistance, which she ignores as she makes her way to the stairs. Stacy is unaccompanied by any of her companion animals, who are sleeping off their breakfast. Her phone is dead. She feels very alone. Now read on. The door of room 222 was already open when she got there. The bed had been made, the curtains open to let in the sunlight. Cleaning noises were coming from the bathroom, swishing and slopping, sounds of scrubbing and of gulping and gurgling water rushing out of something and draining away. Stacy peered in. Jeremy was inside the shower cubicle on his hands and knees, scrubbing and grizzling to himself. Another tirade was in progress. This one directed at thoughtless guests who used up all of the water and left pubes on the soap and let their pets do their business on the carpets and who dribbled on the pillows and strewed Kleenex with mucky makeup on them all over everything. He didn't notice Stacy. She knelt down next to the bath, which was filled almost to the brim with dark green opaque water. "Albert, are you there? I mean Humphrey. Where are you?" The water was very still. Stacy stared down into it with her theodolite, but could see nothing, even on maximum thrust. She reached out and trailed a fingertip over the surface. At once, the waters began to roil and roll and spill and slap, arising from a great turmoil below, and with a mighty swish and swash, Humphrey the dugong thrust his head and shoulders up and honked at her. "Hello, and I'm sorry I forgot you, Albert, Hubert, Humphrey, I mean. Been kind of busy. Haven't a clue how to get you out of here. Haven't a clue how you even got in here. I was thinking, though, that I might go into business and operate one of those mobile dog wash deals. I could tow it behind the Moira, those trailer thingies. They have a big tub inside, and if I could manage to get you into it..." Hubert or Albert or Humphrey opened his flippers wide and honked again. "Oh, I love you too, most truly," said Stacy, "but what are we going to..." Humphrey lunged at Stacy, grabbed her in his flippers, dragged her into the water and dived. Stacy struggled, but she could not escape his strong, barnacled mammalian embrace. Down, down they went, and the dark waters became darker and deeper, and yet deeper, and then they began to clear, and daylight spread and filtered down from above, and just as she decided she could not hold her breath any longer, Albert or Hubert let go, and let Stacy float softly and easily by herself. And Stacy saw that they were in the open ocean, a vista stretching away into pale green infinity, and far below were tracts of brown-gold kelp waving in lazy currents, and schools of parrot and clownfish in carnival colours flicked and nosed amid the scarlet coral. A whale passed overhead, big as a bus, but less crowded. And Stacy found she did not want to breathe, did not need to breathe, and that just by moving her hands a little she could glide along, staring and marvelling. In the distance there was a light, a fulgurous phosphorescence, radiated by a circling host of those bizarre and scarce-seen undersea creatures whose grotesque bodies illume the darkest clefts of unknown chasms. Stacy glided towards the glow while Howard grazed amid the kelp, and she came to an undersea cliff and drifted over it, and a blaze was gathered at its foot, a constellation of sparks swirling in a restless pulsing corona, a living thing of gleeds and glimmers, a submarine bonfire of cold, bright flickerings. As Stacy descended slowly to it, and she saw a figure seated on a shelf of rock, a familiar and favourite smiling figure, its purple-tinted hair lifted and wafted by the waters. "Hello," said inner Stacy. "I've been expecting you."
The Might of Stacy, Part 24, in which Stacy outwits a witch.
The Moira has refused to budge until such time as Stacy rescues the dugong Arthur, unless it's called Herbert, from the bathtub in room 222 of the Shady Rest Hotel. But Stacy is unable to remove Hudson from the tub because Hamish does not wish to be removed. Rather, Hubert wants Stacy to join him, and he grabs and drags her down deeply and inescapably into what appears to be the Pacific Ocean, an offshore expanse probably beyond the continental shelf. It seems a fair distance from Terran Point, anyway. Stacy enters a remote, submerged and mostly silent world where every porpoise pleases and only lobster Mornay is vile. Stacy finds life under the sea breathlessly beautiful and drifts about a bit, marvelling, and then attracted by a distant phosphorescence, moves to it, and finds inner Stacy waiting there, and expecting her too. Now, read on. "Here we are again," said outer Stacy. "I've missed you. Where did you go? Why did you leave? Are you staying this time?" "That's a lot of questions. I missed you too. I went away and left you to deal with things on your own for a while." "How did I do?" "Well, you're here. Being here wasn't exactly my idea." "You sure about that?" "I was abducted, or abdugonged. It was somewhat unexpected." "Was it really? What do you mean by really? Are you going to leave me again?" Inner Stacy didn't answer. She gazed thoughtfully into the slowly whirling coronet of living lights. Then she said, "We never got any answers from the sage in the cave when we climbed Mount Disappointment. No, she tricked us, or me anyway, that damned old hag in the crag. You mean the granny in the cranny? I'm in the frump on the hump, also known as the freak on the peak."
I heard all that.
cried a voice nearby, sounding not like a favourite auntie, but more like a sea witch, or selka, or rusalka, lurking in a submarine cavern, and awaiting a chance to visit some malign fate upon a hapless, unheeding human, one who merely seeks enlightenment. And out into the glimmer and glow floated the sage, in a swirl of rags and dingy ripped chiffon. She seemed miffed. "The sage in a rage," whispered inner Stacy. "The Sybil with a quibble," giggled outer Stacy.
Just but then I should tell you nothing.
Screeched the dewar, though truth to tell, underwater screeching is less effective than the open-air kind. It just produces a lot of bubbles. "The rules say you have to grant me 3 wishes," said outer Stacy. "And what is a dewar anyway?"
You wish to know what is a dewar?
asked the dewar cunningly.
And you wish that I was a nicer and more compliant hag? And you wish that I had better dress sense?
"I won't be deceived by you again," said outer Stacy firmly. And inner Stacy nodded also firmly. The dewar hovered over the reeling ring of restless radiances and stretched out her withered ancient hands as though warming her gelid old soul.
I used to be a pretty thing like you once upon an age,
she sighed. Though truth to tell, underwater sighing is less effective than the open-air kind. It produces even fewer bubbles than a screech.
And then, well...
There was a long silence, not even a bubble. And then, "What?" asked outer Stacy. And she asked it irritably, for though she was a compassionate lass, there was a limit to her patience, and she knew this crafty crone was a trickster. Inner Stacy nodded, and her nod was firm.
And then I wasn't quite so young or pretty anymore, and people kept asking me for advice because I looked like I had lived long enough to know a thing or 2, or even 3, so I started handing out nostrums and prophecies and wisdom and bits of lore and confidential herbs and spices and secret women's bismuth.
Bismuth?
Bismuth.
Good for heartburn and indignation. And the more advice and counsel I gave away,
And the more bent and wizened I became, and the worse my outfits, and my skincare regime was just kaput. And I was careless about diet and exercise, and my posture was sloppy, and I was spending too much time with online auctions, and it was just awful. In the end, there was no place for me but a cave on a crag. Don't you wish I'd made better decisions and chosen nicer clothes and used a deeper cleanser on my pores?
Stacy stared at the doer as stonily as a stonefish and just as venomously. 3 wishes, said Stacy. My wishes, not yours.
Oh, well, I suppose so,
Wept the doer, though truth to tell, underwater weeping is not merely ineffective, it is undetectable. Tears mix with the ocean instantly and become part of it. Fact.
But you have made a long, long journey, and you must be hungry so.
And the doer paddled back into her cabin and emerged with a chafing dish.
Here,
She said enticingly.
have a heaping helping of dugong mornay.
Stacy stared at the doer even more strangely and stonily. 3 wishes, said Stacy again, and no more mucking about with sob stories and catering. 3 wishes.
You're sure?
I'm certain.
You don't wish to change your mind? You wish I'd hurry up and stop mucking about? You wish I wasn't such a tease?
My 3 wishes, said Stacy, and loudly, though truth to tell, she just produced a lot of bubbles.
Very well, I tried.
Said the doer, rather matter-of-factly, and floated down to perch on the rock shelf after chasing away a cluster of conjivoi.
What are your wishes?
Asked the doer, fanning herself slowly with a bouquet of kelp. Stacy did not want to be distracted. She shut her eyes tight and stood up tall in her boots and clenched her fists and declared rapidly through her gritted teeth and doubles, I wish my menagerie was safe at home. I wish I hadn't left the iron switched on. I wish I knew what this whole crazy damn journey thingy was about.
That can be arranged,
said the doer. The Flight of Staasi, 25, in which Stacy's flight comes to an end. What has gone before? Dugonged without being consulted and dragged breathlessly down to a picturesque aqueous locale somewhere deep on the continental shelf off Botany Bay, with conjivoi and whales and so on, and attracted by a submarine blaze of ebullient bioluminescence, Stacy has been reunited here with her inner other, and has also re-encountered the trickster thaumaturge, she of many names, who has no dress sense and is urgently in need of some cosmetic surgery and a life coach. A porky lass, she. Stacy has insisted to the duplicitous doer her right to 3 wishes or requests or applications, and has refused to be distracted by peripheral issues including dugong stew. Stacy has stood her ground, and with firm address and many bubbles has announced that she demands the following. Item, that her menagerie be secured and fed and comforted and housed safely and adequately in a respectful and sustainable and culturally sensitive manner. Item, that her steam iron be switched off and all scorch marks on any blouses erased. Item, that she is provided with an explanation of the events which comprise the preceding 24 parts of this excursion which had made so dramatic an incursion on her routine. She makes these requests with eyes shut tight to avoid any jiggery-pokery from the shady lady. The wily woman remarks that Stacy's desires can be accommodated. Right on to a conclusion. Stacy kept her eyes shut for a good long while, and with fingers crossed and arms akimbo and toes turned in and teeth clenched and tongue-tied, she awaited some susurration or tintinnabulation or seismic convulsion, or even a tap on the shoulder to alert her that all had been accomplished as she'd hoped. Nothing of that nature happened. Now she was afraid to open her eyes. Too many odd things had met her gaze recently. Who knew what fresh-fraught and frazzling imbroglio awaited her? Annihilation, perhaps, anhedonia, agenbite of inwit, alliteration at the very least. And now a sound came to Stacy's attention. Not the moaning, strident note of whale song, nor mermaids quarrelling, nor the lament of long-ago sailors wrecked and drowned upon cruel, uncharted reefs. None of these. No, it was a familiar clamour, but distant, somehow reassuring, somehow welcoming, and somehow she must find the courage to open her eyes and look around her. Stacy opened her eyes and looked around her. She saw not the distant vistas of pale green ocean depth, clothes, but the serried ranks of brand new Moto Guzzi's and BMWs and Yamahas, also Suzukis. And she heard not the sighing of the sea, but the hustle of a highway, and standing nearby and leaning against a wall and with a lopsided smile on his dial was Man Bun. "So, what do you think?
You've been staring at this machine for ages, like you were in a trance or something. You want this bike?"
Stacy tried to gather her still swimming thoughts. She stared at Man Bun and said to herself, "I have to stop calling him Man Bun, it's rude. He probably has a name. It's probably pinned to his shirt somewhere." "It is. Yes, thanks, Howard. I want this one."
"Excellent. I reckon you'll have a lot of fun."
"I think so too," said Stacy, and gave Howard one of her limited edition "you're kind of cute, and if you try a little harder I might just get interested" smiles. Stacy took a deep breath and looked at Howard with her most appealing blue-eyed and guileless gaze. "Howard, do you take Visa?" And here ends the Flight of Stacy.